places they may be alone, they may be poverty-stricken, they may be in the midst of riches, but you can always be sure the angel of God is present wherever his children are.
do you say we pop on over to at least this mode? Gotta turn that music. Wonderful timing, everybody. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Spectrum. Who the hell is the True Salt King? Black Shuriken? Blammer Bros? Oh my gosh, we got all the homies here. What's up, everybody? Hello. I hope y'all can hear me okay. I hope everything's doing all right on your end. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, welcome into TravTalks. I'm so excited to see you all. Bully the Salt Man. It's gotta happen. Hey, Cyber. It's gotta happen. It's gotta happen. Is Note Pass like passing a note, or is it like Nose Pass, like the Pokemon, or is it both? Or is it both? I have thoughts. Just curious. Just curious. I hope everybody's doing all right. Welcome in. Welcome in as soon as we get the opportunity. Darth Iguanodon, thank you for the follow. Note passes human bunny fact machine. Oh. Who knew? Passing notes with insults normally. If you are nice, the notes contain bunnies. Oh. So if I'm cool, then I will get a nice note from you that's like, oh, here's a bunny rabbit. But if I'm not cool, then I open it up and it's like, fuck you. And I'm like, there's not even creativity in this. And you're like, and then you get a second note and it's like, yeah, fuck you. And I'm like, okay, that was good. That was fun. Bunny fact, bunnies do not have paw pads, so they basically slide on hardwood floors. Genius. I'm gonna stick a bunny on the end of my broom. Just kidding. I do that with my ferrets, man. My ferrets just like if they're out and I'm sweeping, they'll just all over my broom. Anyway, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Travis, Super Trav, Travioli if you're feeling spicy. Some people call me Weird Al, and I don't blame them. I mean, you know, take a look at me, you get it, right? You take like one look, and you're like, nah, I see it. And then someone's like, well, like, are you as funny? And I'm like, no. Oh, no. But today we are doing TravTalks. I'm now Ferret Man. I'll take it. We're doing TravTalks today. TravTalks is my show, where I do lots of talking about mental health, content creation, and kind of whatever else comes up. I do research on my guests, by the way. Research. So we have a lot to talk about when it goes into the different areas of things. Today we have the TrueSaltKing, and we're gonna be talking about quite a few different things here. I imagine. I have my little list of questions right here. The wrong page, though. Oh, there it is. So, I got my questions. Although we're probably gonna go off book because it's me. But anyway, I'm gonna unmute my guests and then they'll be the voice in the sky like I just was to them.
Hello? Hello? I'm in the sky. You were in the sky and now I'm in the sky. Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
How you doing?
Hello.
Yeah.
Let's pop on over. Oh, look at that. Oh, I gotta crop you a little bit. No problem.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Well, the problem is no, actually cropping is good, but then if I come over here, it's like hello.
Are you gonna be pulling fucking camera angles on me this whole time?
Not the whole time, but every once in a while.
Okay.
Hello, Blammer. Hello, no. Long time no see. So, hilariously enough, literally as I was getting ready to raid in, Blammer came in to raid me because I didn't get a chance to shut off raids. And so I was like, hey, stick around. We're still going to hang out. It's just going to be over here.
We love the Blammers. I also saw you got another raid from, I believe, Galax.
Yeah, Galax.
Galax.
We love.
Okay.
I think it's. I mean, I've always heard Galax. Legend, regardless. We just call him a legend. It's fine.
As we all know, pronouns led in. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How you doing, everybody? So today, TravTalks. If you haven't seen this show before, this show is basically a kind of a very free-form kind of podcast style, but like everything's a podcast these days. And I struggle to be like I struggle to call it a podcast only because I'm like another white guy with a podcast.
Yeah, especially I laughed so hard. Okay, can I just quickly say, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
When I saw the promotional picture of the two of us side by side with like equal length long hair, just like I was like,
And
yes,
a little bit
too
of
long,
facial hair and
a little bit on the chin, and I'm like, what's this? Two long-haired white guys are gonna talk for 3 hours? Everybody needs to hear this.
Everybody better tune in.
Oh man.
So this is a show. I mean, if you haven't seen it, like I just told the audience, it's all about content creation, mental health, kind of whatever else. I also ask kind of like more specific questions to you because I do pay attention.
Ooh. I'm excited. What notes have you made of me? I'm so curious.
This many.
That's actually pretty fucking. That's a lot. That actually is quite fantastic.
I'm pretty thorough with this. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I appreciate it.
I'm not
Sean
about to jump in.
baby.
I'm not about to just jump in and be like, who the fuck? No.
I love it.
I the first question I want to ask you, because I do have a tiny bit of background music going, just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Is Sonderlust DMCA free?
Oh, it is. You will never get YMCA'd with Sonderlust. You
Good,
can play that.
I am putting it on while we're doing our thing.
That is very kind of you. Thank you. It's actually kind of fun that you bring that up, because today was like Spotify Wrapped, and
I saw that.
And everybody's like, ooh, all their lists, and my Spotify Wrapped was ruined because I use Spotify for my streaming playlist.
Right.
And so it was all of the incredible, like, to be clear, all the incredible independent artists that I listen to that I know that are DMCA free.
Right.
And deserve the rotation. But like, I know for a fact there were other albums that I was obsessed with this year, and it was none of them to be found. So it was all streaming
what
content.
happened to me. I was like, where? I have been on like a Bad Omens kick for like 4 months now. Where is any of that?
Like a bunch of bands that I've loved for years came back with new music for the first time in a long time, and so I've been like obsessing over those albums.
Right.
But no, it was instead the legendary Spectrum Branch and Midnight Laboratory and Riggy 2K3's Jazz Weather and my own music, which was probably the most embarrassing to see my own music at the top of my own list.
Multiple friends who are in bands, all of their top people was like, usually they were like 1 or 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, I'm gonna get that penny or whatever, right?
No, for real. But like on the cooler side of it, because I do make music with Sonderlust, thank you for putting it on and mentioning it, by the way. But I got that as well because artists get a Wrapped as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very, very pleasantly, like, it warmed my heart. Because like, if you've ever been around local bands or been in local bands and all your friends are like, yeah, I'll come to your show, and nobody comes to your show. Maybe 2 people like, it's a $5 show, and nobody will come to it. They'll spend $400 on the big stadium show, but they won't spend the $5 to your local show. Go support your local bands.
Well, you're not Metallica, so
that's true. When I play drums, I don't hit the crash on one. It's true.
See, that's why that's why you're not there yet.
That's why I'm not there yet. It's true. I gotta unlearn the drums, and then I can be a metalhead drummer.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, it's fine.
I wanted to kind of give you the first chance right here before we dive too far in. Yeah, who the fuck are you? Like, who is this guy? Like, tell me about yourself. Tell us about yourself.
God, I wish I knew who I was. No, I'm Salt, aka TheTrueSaltKing. I'm a variety streamer here on Twitch. I do a little bit of everything. I also make music. I make electronic, mostly instrumental music, under the name Sonderlust. Sonder is a German word. Note's going to correct me because I'm going to have this wrong. But Sonder, it's actually a German word meaning that moment when you realize that everybody around you their life is just as complex as your own. Like, you know, when you're like in a mall and you realize, oh no, all of these people have complex lives that I will never understand. And that like that sense of like overwhelming, oh, the world is gigantic and I'm just one part of it. So that's Sonder, and then I made a pun on Wanderlust and Sonderlust, and then I threw a 0 in there because I needed to be edgy, I guess. But it's instrumental electronic music. It's a lot of fun. It's a project I've been doing for the last couple of years. And it's entirely me. It's me, some keyboards, some Ableton, and whatever crazy ideas come to my head, and I just put it together. So between Twitch and between Sonderlust, that's my content creation stuff. I should theoretically have a YouTube, as we're all supposed to apparently have a YouTube. I do not. I don't got that time. In my day life, when I am not content creating and making music, I actually work in radio broadcasting, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of that knowledge has kind of come into play as a content creator as well.
No doubt. I can imagine.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
Question.
Oh, I'm excited. So yeah, I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, usually 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when I start, assuming I actually get home on time. The joke has now become in my community that EST stands for exactly Salt's time, so that I'm never actually late. And then I also will do bonus streams on the weekend during the day, and who knows what the hell will happen. Sometimes we play the game that we're playing, other times we do other random shit. Sometimes I make music, I'll live stream production.
Yeah.
Whatever, and we have fun.
That sounds great. So yeah, I don't know who has YouTube. I don't even know who has that. But yeah. So when you work on all your stuff, like think about like yourself as a content creator, right?
Sure.
But you do have like a full-on job, like a 40-hour week.
That is correct.
Normal life job that also is in a content creation sense, but not the same.
It's ye olde a content creation, if you
Okay.
will, in a lot of ways. So it's very interesting. When I went to school for radio broadcasting was back in 2015.
Mhm.
It was my second time in school. Don't need to get into that. I was going back for something that I thought I could actually get a job in and something I was interested in. And the thing I found even back in 2015 was how much radio as an industry was looking to social media and the kind of intersections of various types of content creation.
Right.
And they weren't really getting into Twitch, but you would see things like the importance of an Instagram presence, the importance of at that point people were still talking about like when Vine was shortly relevant. TikTok didn't really exist yet.
Not yet. No, not in 2015.
Yeah, exactly. But it was like Instagram was the big one. YouTube content actually on the side was the big one. Twitter content was really important, having little mini videos on Twitter that were easily shareable. And so that was kind of that moment where you get into radio broadcasting because it's been around forever.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what an announcer on air is doing is very similar to what a Twitch streamer is doing. They're being that other person in your room, in your headphones. Not so much in your car for streaming, but for radio in your car, being that other person in the room, that other presence, that person to kind of like laugh with when you're kind of doing things on your own. And that's what makes radio still relevant, even in the era of Spotify, where you can pick any music you want. There's something interesting about that community aspect.
Yeah, so that was actually something that I was thinking about, and I spoke with speaking with my partner about it. I was like, when's the last time you think you actually listened to it?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I can't think of it. Like she's like, I don't ever turn it really, I don't turn it on. I don't have like quote unquote reason to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's interesting. But I was like, I want to get like the inside scoop here. Like,
yeah,
what do you think the draw is still to radio? Because like it's like, oh yeah, that's a good song. Oh yeah, yeah, like 4 minutes of Prilosec ads, you know, like.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? Is radio as an industry right now, I find is, I wouldn't say that it's struggling to find its feet. It still very much has its feet, but it has to kind of readjust, and it's been in an adjustment period. It's been very interesting to see it change and evolve. I think one of the things that is really important is like there's a lot of us out there who we think, okay, I want everything extremely curated. I want it extremely curated to me. But the downside to things being extremely curated is sometimes you don't actually find what you're looking for because you just keep finding more of the same.
Okay,
right?
sure.
One of the things, because I'm a big rock and metal and punk guy, and so we have a few rock stations in my area that I listen to Spotify in the car, but I also put the radio on for me still, because if I didn't, there's a lot of artists that I simply wouldn't hear. And it kind of goes the other way, because radio has a habit of being very cherry picky about who makes it on air and who doesn't.
Oh, sure.
But you can still find artists and music and maybe a band that you wrote off 5 years ago because you heard one song and you didn't like it, but then you're listening to the radio and they come out and they've got a new song and it's a banger. And you kind of go back and go, maybe I should give these guys a second listen. And so
do you have like a good example for you on that one?
So one of my dirty secrets is that I was not an emo kid in high school. It's funny because in high school everybody hid that they were an emo kid, and now as adults it's really cool to have had that emo phase. I have found that a lot, where a lot of people were like, yeah, back in the day, people really rock their love for MCR and stuff like that. I didn't listen, and because they're great bands, but as a kid I didn't want to. I had no desire to. So it wasn't until much later when Danger Days came out, and I was listening to the radio back then, and Na 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 was on the radio, and I was like, what is this song? This bangs. And then I found out it was MCR, and immediately I had to sit. I was 22 at the time, and I had a moment where I had to sit with myself and be like, maybe I was wrong about this band that I hated in high school for no reason, and then went back and listened to them and realized I'd been missing an incredible band that whole time. Were
you a smelly metal kid then?
Oh, I was a dirty, okay. So I was a dirty metalhead kid.
Okay.
I was also a prog snob.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. I was that asshole kid who at 15 years old, I went into my local HMV CD, which is a record store. I went to my local HMV, and I just in one day I bought a Tool album, I bought a 9 Inch Nails album, and I was already listening to System of a Down, and then that just became the crux of my musical identity at the age of 15. I'm like, it's not complicated enough for me.
It's not 12 minutes long and have 15 solos somewhere thrown in.
I can guarantee you every single one of my friends from the last 15 years of my life has I remember the day that Salt, after a couple of drinks, decided he needed to tell me about the importance of the Fibonacci sequence in that Tool song, because I did that so many times. I was that jerk. I hate it. It's so it's so embarrassing now, but I still love that song and I still love that music. But
yeah, no, Tool's great.
But it's oh God, I was so frustrating as a kid with music, because I was very specific, and it took me a long time to really broaden my horizons musically on what was good and not good.
So that's interesting. So I found I kind of did self-reflection, and I kind of realized that I did that same type of thing, but only after I got into metal and stuff like that.
Yeah, there is a lot.
Before,
no, go ahead.
Before I was into I had a rap and hip hop phase, a big one. Because I wasn't allowed to dress as a metalhead kid. So
okay.
I had that going for me. So imagine, young Trav with a fitted cap, but these little Duke girls just kind of popping out the side. It's not very gangsta, I will say. But I had that huge phase, and I wasn't that exclusionary, but I got into metal, and I found myself being kind of exclusionary, oh no, pop music sucks, and you just listen to Fall Out Boy because you think they're cute or whatever.
And
now I'm no, Fall Out Boy kicks ass.
No, they're great. They're fucking great. I find especially that a lot of counterculture is a double-edged sword in that it is simultaneously a beautiful safe haven for a lot of people who feel like they don't belong anywhere else.
Right.
And so like I think like metal and punk and goth and all of this like dark and angry music, grunge even, and punk, it's a safe haven for people who feel like they don't have anywhere else.
Right.
But the flip side of that is like I find people hold on to that feeling even when it doesn't make sense for them anymore, like when they've evolved past it.
Yeah.
And so they continue to wield these things like a sword and end up becoming the very thing that they swore they didn't ever want to be, which is like a gatekeeper and a bully and
Right.
rude and talking. And it's so interesting too with metal because there's gatekeeping within metal. Like there's gatekeeping with like those who listen to it and those who don't.
Right.
But then it gets so much worse because then it's like, okay, you're a metalhead, but are you really a metalhead? Because like metalcore isn't really metal. It's only if you're listening to like brutal death metal or like black metal or
you gotta be true. Like if you're not true cult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And so it just becomes this whole
KVLT for those.
Yeah. With a K, with a V, not a U. That's right. True cult.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to me because like it was this thing of security for me, and then eventually I had this moment of being like, I'm missing out on a lot of great music and incredible music, incredible artists, incredible lyrics, great minds, culture and movement, and a big part of that too is like I was born and raised in a really small town.
Okay. Sure.
And so there's not a whole lot of culture happening in small town southwestern Ontario, the province where I live in Canada. It is yeah, it's as backwards as rural United States. It has a lot of the same prejudices, a lot of the same struggles, but you kind of take a lot of that on your shoulders. Right. And when I moved to the city, I have no problem saying, you know, I happily live in the city of Toronto, and I've been here for 13 years, and just being here and being around the rest of the world, actually more than 13 years now, 15 years, Jesus, and just learning that there's a whole world out there that you don't know in your tiny little town, and so many lived experiences that you would never have known had you never moved away, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in one of my research sessions, as it were, and I was lurking in one of your streams, and you were talking about your tiny little backwoods town. And so I was gonna ask a little bit about that. Do you remember your graduating class size?
Oh, yes. I can give you a ballpark.
That's
ballpark.
Fine. Ballpark's fine.
The graduating class size would have been like maybe 50 people. Maybe.
Sounds awful only because I went to a school where my graduating class was close to 600.
Yeah. Wow.
Which meant that our graduation ceremony took fucking forever.
But
they did kind of race through the names. It was just like, Travis, Sean, Trey, let's go.
It was, for us, my high school was grade 9 to grade 12. Yep. And I think there was in total 600 students.
So
like we knew everybody. Everyone knew everybody.
Right. And if you dated somebody, they knew it. Like everybody knew.
Everyone knew. Nothing like the thing they say about small towns and secrets, it's true. There's no secrets. Everybody knows everyone.
Right. So in that, right, something that I've found a common theme amongst people who grew up in small towns is usually it's one or the other. It's a small town and it's a black hole and you get sucked in forever.
Yes.
You get sucked in forever, and the only thing you do in your small town is cut grass and die. Like that is what you do, right? And I guess in your case, probably shovel some snow, right?
And shovel a hell of a lot of snow. Yep.
Right. So in that same sentence, like the people who get out always want to do something big.
Absolutely.
What was your big dream?
I mean, I think everybody wants to change the world, right? For me,
That is very, very sweet.
yeah, right. For me, so I had a whole lot of dreams. I was a kid with a whole lot of dreams. Um, and the biggest thing for me, which seems very selfish, but it's true, um, I really wanted to make something of myself because I came from very, very, very low income family. We struggled a lot. And I love my mom to death. She worked really, really hard to give us everything we had. But it was one of those things where I wanted to just be something or someone.
Right. Have a name.
And yeah, exactly. It was one of those things where at the time I wanted to get into acting. I was a theater kid when I was in high school, on top of being a metalhead and a drummer. So like I've always loved playing drums. I've always loved music, and I was always a theater and performance kid. So like when I went to university, I went to University of Toronto, and my original plan was I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to be an actor.
Okay.
And so that was the path I'd originally kind of struck down, in this idea of I wanted to create, I wanted to make art, and I also wanted to be able to perform. Both of those dreams fell apart fairly quickly, because I found very, very quickly once I left my little pond that the world of the performing arts, whether it be stage acting or film acting, was very superficial in a way I wasn't prepared for. And that's not to say it all is like that at all, but the people who were making the decisions and had the money, it very much was. And that was something I wasn't expecting, because I had come from this like little world of like community theater, and it was all about performing and like, putting your heart and soul into it. And
yeah,
it was one of my first real brush ups with the corporatization of performance and art, which was wild. And so things
it is an industry.
It very much is. They all are.
It is the entertainment industry. So like, and this is actually like, funny enough, this is a little bit later on my thing here. Like, it's fucking fine.
Whatever.
My show. But the
your show.
the world of the entertainment industry, right? It is meant to be like, they put the fucking the hotties up much sooner than they would like the insanely talented ones. And that's something that I've found before.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's in the entertainment industry, do you even and like, because you work in radio, and that's different.
Yeah.
There's no visual element to video.
That is true.
So does that same type of thing pop up? Or is there something else there?
It depends. It honestly depends on the generation. I'm not going to name names and call anybody out.
No, that's fine.
But there are definitely, if you like look through the history of infamous radio people, which there isn't so many now, but there have been tons throughout history, just like even like your local radio stars, your big name morning show hosts on your local stations and stuff. Back in the day, right? Like you'd get long-haired, balding hippies, and it didn't matter because they had the charisma and they had the voice and the charm. And it didn't really matter what they looked like, because what everyone cared about is what they sounded like, right?
Right.
And so you still get it, but you get it in a different way. The focus was way less on how you visually looked, but a lot more in how you auditorily sounded. You needed to sound appealing. And it didn't necessarily mean that you had to have like a warm, rich voice, but you needed to be iconic. You needed to be memorable. You needed to be able to really hold court. and it was the wild, wild west. Like when you talk about the golden age of radio, wild, wild west, we still had like payola, where people could get like paid money under the table to plug records and shit like that, and all that nasty stuff back in like the 70s and 80s.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Everything's got a price.
Oh, of course, absolutely. And let's be real, I'm sure that kind of thing still exists today, but it's just done in much more professional and less outward ways.
Right.
But
It's the blockchain, and then it's all in crypto and whatever.
There's the short and long of it is there's still record labels. They still have agendas. They still have artists that they want to get on air, and they will incentivize that in ways that don't get them in trouble with the law, but they will find ways to incentivize it, right?
Like, is it okay? So is that the same as like doctors and prescribing medicine type thing? Like, do you get like free pens and shit, or is it more like, or are they more like, hey, this, like I don't know, that new Nick Jonas song just came out, so like, y'all gonna play that, and then you're like, it's not really on the rotation, and then they're like, well, I have a
are you sure?
I have a tote bag that says it is.
But like so what you're kind of getting to now is like in today's world, it doesn't happen because it doesn't need to. Because why would you grease the palms of a radio station when you can make somebody a celebrity online, and then the radio station has to play their music or they fall behind, right? This is talking about pop radio too, right? Because like when you're talking about pop radio versus say like rock isn't really in the cultural zeitgeist as much right now. The big focus in terms of like top 40 music is going to be things like hip hop and rap and dance. And that's where your focus is. So like
there's a couple that I feel like leak in, and we can talk about that in a minute, but
absolutely, and it's really fascinating to see that. But like when you really look at these things, you kind of have to ask like, where do these artists pop up from? And usually they pop up on socials before they pop up anywhere else. They get a breakout hit, right? And then you also have what I like to call the ones the industry wasn't prepared for, and I love them. It's people like Lil Nas X, where like love or hate him, he knew how to make Old Town Road into one of the biggest songs of all time, milked the shit out of it, became such a household name that he forced himself a seat at the table that otherwise he never would have gotten, otherwise.
Oh no,
and that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now he gets to make the music however he wants. He doesn't have to listen to a label. He gets to be his own artist, and nobody can really tell him no. It's the same with Lizzo. Lizzo is very similar with her going viral. She has a lot of control over her sound. And it's very interesting to see these pop artists who are now like big pop icons and part of the like pop culture and pop music zeitgeist, but they got there on their own terms by the same channels that labels are using, I find, but they did it themselves. So it's this kind of interesting thing to see.
That is interesting, because like I'm thinking like, do these radio stations and whatnot, do they go and they're like, oh man, we gotta run over, oh shit, check Spotify, what's on their new hot 50 or whatever, and then they're like, at least as far as like pop music goes. Now rock music, in your case, right, where you work for a rock station, you said?
So I don't actually work for a rock station right now, but I'm very in tune with the rock stations in my area. Okay. When you're in the industry, you kind of can pay attention and you kind of got your ear to the ground a little bit.
Right. Okay.
So I see how things go in my area, which is very cool.
So people that I think of that kind of leak into both, the immediate thing that came to mind was like Mainskin.
Yeah. And that one was also wild too, because that's Eurovision.
Right.
Like, who would have thought?
Which is right. Like it's not to the same level as like Erasmus, but like there's like, do you like that reference?
Yeah. Absolutely.
But also like but like that was like a big thing that was like, that's kind of rock music. It's definitely for poppiness, but like there's more of like a guitar driven sound to it,
Absolutely. I mean, it is rock music. At the end of the day, rock music is so pop music doesn't actually exist.
Okay.
So we're gonna. I'll explain that a little bit more.
Okay.
Pop
Salty
music.
take. Let's do it.
Pop music doesn't actually exist. All that pop music is, pop literally means popular, right? Pop music is whatever genre is biggest right now and the biggest songs in that genre. That's pop, really. If you look at the 60s, pop music was the Beatles.
Right.
The Beatles were a pop band.
Oh, totally.
Like they were literally on like Top of the Pops and all that kind of thing, right? Like and so it's interesting that now we have kind of conceptualized pop as being like a sort of dance genre that is like light but fun and high energy, and we kind of like we think of it like in like a, almost like the drink in a very sugary way. It's like sugary and fun and high energy. It's like Happy by Pharrell Williams, or it's like oh my god, the name of the song just fell out of my head. Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen, right? Like when like those are when I think of like a pop song, those are some ideas that come to my head right away. But also what's a pop song is like half the stuff that Post Malone has done. Imagine Dragons, say what you will about them as an artist or a band. I'm not personally a fan, but they're rock music with electronic influences in a poppy way, right? And in a lot of ways, post it, not at the time, but retroactively, songs like Mr. Brightside by The Killers, which like randomly you'll go to a club and they'll be playing all sorts of dance music, and then they'll put on a rock song and it's going to be one of like 7 songs, and bet you one of them might be Mr. Brightside.
Oh, you
right?
know, Brightside.
And it's
that
so
gets white people all turned up. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, right? Absolutely.
But I'll be damned if I'm not in the center of that floor screaming it, you know?
Cause it's good. Cause it's
track.
good. There's nothing wrong with it.
And it's so dumb. And like I don't remember who I was talking with. We were making the jokes about it, like just like, and the guy didn't even bother writing a second fucking verse. Like he was just like,
why would you? Yeah. You know what? That I guarantee you, he wrote the verse, he wrote the chorus. He was like, "We're good. We'll just do that twice."
Yeah.
We'll do that twice. We'll have different inflections.
We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. But like, sure, but that's the classic pop method. That's the Beatles pop method.
Oh yeah.
Verse, chorus, middle 8, chorus out. That's it. Done.
Print it. Send it.
Just exactly. Straight. Just straight to print. We're gonna make a fuck ton of money. Let's go.
And we're gonna do a fuck ton more drugs. Perfect.
Oh, absolutely. But no, and actually, like, but going back to Maneskin though, you hit the nail on the head. The reason why they blew up the way they did. First of all, part of the reason why they blew up is because they're I don't want to at all discredit them. Their live performance during Eurovision was electric. It was amazing.
Yeah, they're great performers.
I remember that year. One of my partners, because it was during COVID, so we were deep in isolation, and one of my partners was very much just like, you know what, I'm gonna actually just watch all of Eurovision, and so she decided she was gonna watch the whole thing, and I was just popping my head in at different points, and then literally at one point, like, she had messaged me being like, Italy was crazy, I think you'd really like them. And so I went back and watched the performance, and it's like, yeah, they came out with the 80s style stage makeup. They're very, very clearly influenced by 70s and 80s rock, but they're doing it their own way, and I love that, and it worked. And because now we've come so far away from rock music in pop that like it's novel again to come back to these raw sounds, which I think is really cool.
It is weirdly cyclical in kind of the entertainment industry.
Absolutely.
And bringing it to the industry that you and I currently have in common, would you say there's any sort of cyclical nature to that? I don't know. Granted, I also don't know how long you've been doing this.
So I've been doing now. Coming up on my 2nd year anniversary.
Okay. Yeah. I just had my. We started similarly the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I streamed for like 21 hours and drank pills. It was awful.
I remember I was in there for bits and parts.
Brutal.
I commend you.
I will say,
I have
not the worst taste in the world, but the feeling
That's
after was
impressive.
not pleasant.
no, good God.
I'm not even lactose intolerant or anything. Like I can do milk and whatnot just fine, but it's like
No, those two things. Oh no, I get it. I get it. But so in the 2 years that I've been doing it, I do think that there is a little bit of there is a bit of a cyclical nature to it, but I think the cyclical nature is in learning the same lessons over and over again.
okay.
Uh, I do find
Examples, please.
so um, I find a lot of content creators spread themselves way too thin, or
Oh, yeah.
they give way too much for way too little.
Okay.
Especially in the early days. And this is a self call out. I need to make this clear. This is a super self call out too. I have throughout my time on Twitch, we all like to do our streamathons and our subathons and our, this celebration. If we hit this by this time, I'll do this crazy thing like drinking
Sure.
pills, right? Like you brought it up with like drinking Coke. We all do it. It's all part of it.
Wasn't pleasant, but yes.
Because it's fun, right? The whole idea of it, like the community gets to have a laugh, you get to have a great time, you have a little bit of shenanigans. It's something you're okay with doing once. Maybe it won't be the greatest, but it's kind of a way of saying thank you for all the support. But what I often find is people kind of value things a little too low, or I find a lot of times with like goal streams with a whole bunch of like targets,
Okay.
I find a lot of times they set the goals to be cleared rather than set the goals for the amount of effort, torture, endurance it's going to be required.
Okay.
I have found a lot of times, like I've seen, and there's no specific things. I don't want to call anybody out. That's not my point here.
Call me out.
But, like,
My show.
but like my show. But like I've definitely seen things where somebody's like, okay, at like 50 subs, I'm gonna stream for 36 hours, and I was like,
okay, yeah, I
set
see
that
what
higher, dude. Like set that higher, or like like food challenges.
Sure.
Play within your limits. And I've seen drinking challenges, and
Don't. I'm looking right at camera. Do not.
I've done it, but there's a key to that. Is when you do it, you got to know your limits, right? Know your limits, and stick within it. So when I did it, I knew where my hard limit was, and the way that I had set up the challenge, it was not physically possible for them to get it to a place where it was going to be unsafe for me.
Right.
Was I still quite inebriated at the end of it? Absolutely. And that was ultimately the goal. That's what people wanted to see.
Sure, yeah, of course.
I did like way early on. I did a stream where it was a donate for a power hour. I don't know if you know what a power hour is, if you're familiar with it.
There are many ways of interpreting power hour. Some people are like, I gotta finish this 12 rack in an hour. And power hour. It's like, whoa.
So that's a lot. So my interpretation of a power hour is it is 60 shots of beer in 60 seconds. Or sorry, 60 minutes, not 60 seconds. 60 shots of beer in 60 seconds, I would die. I
don't think that's like physically
possible. Maybe if you can just open the hatches, and just away it goes. But no,
get the waterfall thing.
Yeah. No, 60 shots in 60 minutes, but it's shots of beer, not shots of hard liquor.
Okay, so that's 60 ounces. That's still
Yeah,
a lot of liquid.
Yeah, that's gonna be essentially like 3.5, almost 4 tall boys. Like when you think about like a 16-ounce can of beer.
Yeah,
So it's a lot. It's gonna get you feeling good.
Sure. An hour?
But it's not It's not going to kill you. But what I had during that challenge was people could donate to extend the timer up to a century club, which is the same thing, but 100 and 100.
Right. Okay.
And so when you think about 100 and 100, that is, divided by 16, we're getting up there in the number of beers to do in like an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's about 8.
Yeah, which is a lot. And to be clear, to anybody who's listening, if you are not somebody who has a high tolerance for alcohol, don't do this to yourself. I know my limits. For whatever reason, I metabolize alcohol very well. So I knew that this was going to be okay for me. But I have definitely seen other folks doing like, I'll do shots for subs, and I'm like, you're gonna die, and just other not healthy decisions, or and things like that. And I find the lesson comes back around time and time again, where there's people who will push and push and push because they're trying to be novel and exciting and new.
Yeah.
And they might know their limits, but other people watching don't, and then they follow suit and get themselves into situations that aren't so great. Or
so kind of like copying copying a streamer who has been doing this for a long time, and like everybody is an amalgamation of every other person.
Absolutely.
Like, I would never be like, my content is so fucking unique. I'm a white dude with a fucking podcast again. Like, we made the joke earlier, but like, wow, so unique, so different. But the idea of like everybody taking like pieces of everybody, like, oh, that's I like that. I like that thing that pops up in your corner every single time,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. It's cool because it only shows people who show up in chat, right?
Correct.
Like,
that's correct.
Not just lurkers.
Exactly. And like, that's not mine. That's not an original. I stole that from somebody else. I spend an obscene amount of time just like looking up stream ideas on YouTube, and people were like, somebody did this, somebody did that, somebody came up with this thing, somebody used this bot to do this. And it's exactly what you said. You cherry pick out the things that make sense for you, or you feel like you can manipulate and twist in a way that works for your stream.
Right.
And then you make it yours. And so I found out about that when I switched over to StreamerBot, which is, I fucking love StreamerBot. It is my favorite tool for anything I do for content creation, because it's so flexible. And I was just looking for like inspiration, and somebody basically had the script already made. And so I'll be completely 100% honest. I didn't even take the script. I straight up stole the script because they're like, here, take it. I just took it then and then manipulated it so like the fonts are in the fonts that are similar to everything else on my channel.
Yep.
The colors are mine. And the greetings, it's a randomized set of greetings, and I wanted them all to be as much as possible things that made sense to see on my stream, because we make a lot of jokes about me being a Canadian hoser, and we make a lot. Oh yeah, oh fuck yeah, bud, fucking right, eh? Yeah. And so we make a lot of jokes about that kind of thing. We make a lot of jokes about the name itself being the Salt King, and sodium court and all that kind of thing. So I just really wanted to make sure that it was flavored in a way that made sense for me. I want to make it salty and Canadian and silly and maybe a little bit gay, but a grand time. But yeah, no, it's absolutely what you said though. The key to it is I don't want it to be something that calls out lurkers. So it only activates the first time you type in chat, and it resets every 12 hours. I can manually reset it, but it resets the check every 12 hours. So which is really cool, because if you do a marathon stream, people can get their entrance themes more than once and get their hellos more than once, because they probably came in and out, right? So that's kind of fun. That's kind of fun too.
Anybody like the recent 21-hour thing that I did, the streamathon or the subathon, like anybody who stayed with me for 21 hours, like I commend you more than me. Like,
and some people do it. It's so incredible.
I think it's amazing. I commend them more than me because I'm the one doing everything. And like,
Yeah.
I assume they're just like, you know, playing games or just kind of hanging out. Like I'm on the
Yeah,
side
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. But the idea of them like being with me the whole time, and I'm
Oh,
at least I'm like doing shit. You know? Like I'm doing my makeup and I'm
yeah.
reading Sonic fan fiction and stuff like that. You know, like
Oh no, did you actually?
oh yeah,
Oh man.
oh yeah, and I did all the voices and everything.
Oh, that must have been a grand old time.
Well, you know, Sonic and it's I don't know if you've heard of it, Sonic's Ultimate Harem.
Oh, yep. Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I do. I do know that one.
Yeah. There are 360 chapters.
Is it up to 360 now?
It stopped a few years ago.
Oh, I didn't know they finished it finally.
I'm not spoiling any endings.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be reading it, so I'm glad you're not spoiling anything for me.
But yeah, like the whole thing, like it's literally like Sonic just like reminiscing about all these like fictional women that he's banged. But like with
So
Mario,
good.
like he's reminiscing with Mario.
Oh fuck. That's
So Mario's like this like total beta dude. Like
oh god.
he's a total beta,
Voiced by Chris Pratt.
voiced by me in that scenario.
Oh no.
What do you mean you're a player? You know, like that's
Oh,
that
fuck.
kind of shit. Yeah, so like that the nature of the Twitch streaming thing, right? Like
Mhm.
we cherry pick. We like I was like, I like that. That's cool. And I'm like, do I incorporate that into my thing? No, I don't really necessarily have like
Mhm.
the salt theme. You know, I don't really have that
Sure.
as a branding type thing.
Sure.
I could do like, you know, I'm, you know, everybody's a super friend, so I could give people like, you know, their like the entrance theme, like, you know, like
Yeah.
2 second non-identifiable like clip of like the Superman entrance. Like I'll pitch it up.
Oh, that'd be pretty funny. That would actually be pretty funny.
I'll pitch it up like a half a step, and everyone's like, "Is it the Superman theme?" And I'm like, "Almost."
No, it's not. It's the Super You theme.
It's the super sharp theme. But
Yeah.
So we cherry pick, and I've like the cyclical nature. The only thing that I've noticed that's like cyclical in this world, in particular,
Yeah.
is like kind of the games. I feel like there's like seasons for games.
Okay, I think that's a pretty interesting take. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
I can elaborate, and I will. It's my show. So we elaborate the idea of during winter time, people generally play more, I guess, like nostalgic games or yeah, absolutely. And it like they play a little more like nostalgic games. They play a little more like comforting games. Like, well, Pokemon obviously just came out as a huge deal. Outsold God of War like 3-1. Like,
Fuck. I have some thoughts, but continue on.
Game Freak's too small, and it's Nintendo's fault.
Yes. Yes.
That's the only thing I'll say.
Did you see my 10 post fucking
No.
on Twitter like a week and a half ago? I wrote like I was nailing the treatise to the fucking door of the church about how to fix Pokemon. like 10 pages long. Like, this is what's good, this is what's bad. But it did basically come down to that.
No, it's true, because like Game Freak's a tiny little company, but Nintendo basically is just like whoosh, and just like makes them
Dance, monkey, dance.
they make them put out a game like every year.
Every year.
And like
This year too.
yeah, like Arceus looked like shit.
But it was okay.
It's
so
fun.
like
It's
like
fun.
Arceus looked like shit, but it was one of the most fun experiences I've had. And I'm so mad because that is how I'm feeling about this game too. It's like this game runs like ass.
Yeah.
But it's one of the most fun fucking games I've played in the whole series. Ah,
They know how to make it fun,
I'm so mad.
but they
I want to be mad.
They underpower the Switch like crazy.
Yeah.
And so, because it's meant to be portable, so I get it.
And cheap.
And cheap, right? Cheap to produce, cheap to like buy and all that stuff. Kind of Nintendo's whole thing for however long they've been doing it. That's it. Like, they also don't want it to like Game Gear it and like make it just eat through batteries like every hour. You're like throwing away 4 AA's. You know,
you just came for my soul with the Game Gear drop.
I'm a big old Sonic fan. That's why I like read the fan fiction on stream.
Me too. Me too. You can make me play Sonic 2 for like 35,000 channel points. I'll stop what I'm doing and play Sonic 2 immediately on my channel.
I don't have that many points, but I'll get there. Shut up. Play Sonic 2.
Literally, though. That's literally what it is.
I don't know.
I mean, I can. It takes me about 45 minutes. I clear the game in about 45 minutes now. It's awesome. It's great. But no, sorry, I derailed you so hard.
It happens on this show all the time. It's all good.
But no, nostalgic games.
Yeah, so nostalgic games come through fairly often. And I feel like those happen during like the cozy months, like where people are inside more and it's like kind of wrapped up with like blanket hot cocoa style type of thing.
That's
and then summertime is when everybody's views are down, right? It is a normal, noticeable thing, right? It happens to everybody. So any Twitch streamers out there, don't worry about it. It happens every summer.
It happens to the best of us. If it happens multiple times, just call a doctor. It's okay. It can be smaller in the summer. It's okay.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, no comments. The world that so in summertime everybody's trying all sorts of weird shit. What's gonna work? I hate word games, but words on stream. You know, like fucking like Marbles is a great game. I think it's a great genius idea because it's really cool for like giveaways and stuff too.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So like that's a genius idea, but it is very much like a non-game game. It is a show that you watch.
It is a wallpaper simulator that you get to have your name over one of the pieces in the wallpaper.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's a good time. It's fantastic.
So in the summertime, that is what I've noticed. Like those are like the two like main cyclical points, at least for games, that I've noticed.
Yeah. Okay.
And then obviously you'll see the big releases all the time. You'll always see the big releases. Sonic came out when God of War came out, like literally within a week of each other, which
back to back, 2 days apart or 1 day apart.
Kudos to Sega for having the balls to be like, we'll go up against God of War, you know.
Yeah, but I also think they knew. I also think they knew that like we're not fighting God of War. The vast majority of people who are going to be playing Sonic Frontiers, are either going to play God of War later or aren't the type of person who are going to play God of War.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Amazing. Because like for me, it was a no-brainer. I still don't have God of War Ragnarok because I haven't finished the first one yet. I still need to finish the first one, admittedly.
I recommend it.
I have it. I have been playing it. I do really enjoy it. I get why people love it.
Yeah.
But like for me, so it's kind of funny that you mentioned like being a Sonic fan. I'm a lifer, for better or worse. I'm a for better or worse lifer with the series. And so this game was very important to me because I just needed it to be fun. I didn't even need it to be like perfect. I didn't need it to be flawless. I needed it, and it's not. It's got bumps and bruises, and it's got things that I would like them to take out, and some things I would like to see them polish up and bring back a little bit cleaner. But the gameplay loop is so satisfying, and some people had issues with like the cyberspace levels. I genuinely really enjoyed them. There was a couple that I thought were a little rough, but most of them were really, really fun. And the writing was really solid. I'm glad they got.
I'm not finished.
I'm not going to spoil nothing, but all I'm going to say is I'm really glad they've got Ian Flynn doing the writing because he's involved a lot in the new run of the comics as well, and he's been really concerned about, okay, we have so many different stories that we've done with this blue hedgehog.
Yeah.
What can we actually canonize as part of like a lore, like a through line lore? What points can we actually connect? What points do we kind of just need to throw away because they don't make sense?
Right.
And kind of really try to do that. And I really loved how much Frontiers was aware of the past and everything that he had done before, because it comes up a lot.
Yeah. Do you think Ian just like slammed like Breath of the Wild on the table and he's just like that, but Sonic?
I feel like that wasn't Ian Flynn. I do think Sega was like, we're going to make Sonic Breath of the Wild, because yeah, sure, but like everybody's been doing that for the last 5 years, right?
And David, and most of them are pretty decent. Like they recognize like that kind of like, wow, people really like that kind of open world, make your own choices. It's going to be hard in some areas, it's going to be easier in some. They recognized that and went, oh, but Sonic though.
So the thing that I think is really interesting as we are getting farther and farther and farther away from the launch day of Breath of the Wild is, as we have now seen other people take that concept and iterate on it, it is making me realize how much, and I say this with love, how much Breath of the Wild lacks, because that game is empty. The game is so empty.
Oh yeah.
And it's very cool to see how that has really kind of informed game design going forward, because we see a lot of people ripping off Breath of the Wild, but frankly doing it better. And again, his salt take, yeah, here we go again. And again, I'm not saying that Breath of the Wild is a bad game. Breath of the Wild is a very good game. But other developers have now gotten to learn lessons. I think one of the smart lessons that Sega made was, we're going to do Breath of the Wild, but we're going to do Breath of the Wild in a bunch of smaller zones. So it still feels, so you feel less likely to just get completely lost. And also, when you factor in the fact that you are, instead of being Link, who runs at like slowly,
pretty goddamn slow, yeah.
This really slow pace, unless you've got one of the best horses in the game, and even then you're basically going to teleport everywhere. So like, one of the things I always say is, like, an open world is great if you want to explore it, but if you find yourself just going from point A to point B once so that you can then fast travel every other time, what's the point? Whereas you can unlock fast travel in Sonic Frontiers, and I don't want to use it.
No,
I don't want to use it.
Yeah, I've noticed. I really like the fishing game, by the way. I think it's really fun.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's basic, and like, it's really fucking silly that like, I just like throw a thing and then like a fucking whale like comes out. It's just like,
or a tire,
with fucking treasure chest. A spring. I caught a spring recently. Like,
oh, the amount of Easter eggs too. And I will say this: if you haven't been buying the egg logs, buy the egg logs. That's what,
yeah.
Okay, good. They're fantastic.
Yeah, and yeah. What the fuck were we talking about before this? Oh, talking about. This...
Sorry, you've got somebody with ADHD on your podcast. I'm not gonna hold you down.
I've you know. I got diagnosed ADD as a kid before they got rid of ADD, and they just have ADHD now with the predominant types. But like, I think I was part of that like wave of like every 9-year-old boy got diagnosed with ADD, and you want to know why?
Oh yeah,
because they're 9-year-old boys.
Well, exactly. No, exactly.
And just from my therapist point of view, working with children, like I'm literally a child therapist, right? So like working with these kids, like some of these young kids, like I asked like the parents, like, what do y'all do for like physical activity? Do you have a dog? Do you like do anything? They're like, no, we don't do anything. I'm like, and you're wondering
Yeah.
why this kid's bouncing off the wall. You're like genuinely curious. Like,
Because he's got a lot of energy and he's got nowhere to
he's
go.
got nowhere to go. Like, and that's not necessarily always the anybody's fault or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you've got like a small 2-bedroom apartment and a 9-year-old boy,
Yep.
and the kid's got nowhere to go.
Yep. Absolutely.
You gotta get the kid a bike, gotta get him in sports, something to get him like physically active. And even if he complains a little bit, like push through that as the parent, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Be the
Find
parent,
him
be like,
something.
hey, let's try this.
I had a DDR pad, and that helped so much as a kid. Like just a really shitty DDR pad, but I loved DDR as a kid.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of exercise. You get a kid stomping around on the ground for a solid hour and a half. They're good.
Yeah, no, it's legitimate. It is a legitimate thing that I've noticed with the younger kids, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like the youngest of the young kids.
Well, yeah, it's like, so I've got two nephews, 8 and 10. And it's like, it baffles me because they're so young, and like before they were forming full coherent sentences, they could take my sister's iPad and navigate to their favorite game, and just like how like dialed in they are technologically. But through that, I find they're starting to get less dialed in around them.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know that's not a fault of anyone. I'm not blaming anyone. It's just like the way society has moved. But I feel like now we're having this situation where we're seeing these young kids with all of this energy, and everybody's being like, there's an ADHD epidemic or there's an ADD epidemic. It's like, no, these kids just are bored, and then you put them in isolation for 2.5, 3 years. And you wonder why these poor kids aren't like just clawing up the walls like gremlins. Of course they are. This is when they need to be interacting and finding like things that they love and their passions and their hobbies, and they're trapped inside and can't do anything. And it's wild.
It's brutal. And my God, what I've ran into so hard in my day job is the 2.5 years of isolation, whatever it was, like that did a number on kids, like social development. Like they really, like some of them really struggle now.
Yeah.
Like especially if the one of the 2 years was like a school transition year, like from like elementary to middle.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like they're like, how do I do, you know? Because I had there were some kids that like went into isolation in 5th grade, and then they're a 7th grader when they come back to school,
and everything changed.
And everything's changed, right? Like people's identity, hormones, like all that stuff is like huge. And like, you know, 6th grade sucks for most people. Like no one's.
Oh God, yeah.
Middle school was awful.
Oh, absolutely. Same. No, 6th grade was the worst year of my life. Like my worst year of my life, like as a kid, at least I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah,
no, it's awful. That year or so of our lives is incredibly difficult. Which like now I work in a middle school, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, this sucks. God damn.
I remember this, and you all smell a little bit. Yeah, like it's there's a smell. I'll tell you right now. Walk through a middle school hall, you'll be like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh. You know, there's something here.
Yep. Oh man.
Middle school is most definitely a tough time for many kids, which I don't think is necessarily either a bad thing either. Because it's weirdly a rite of passage. And I don't mean like go to middle school and get shit kicked out of you and everything's gonna be great forever. No. Like
no.
But to experience that with so many others.
Yeah.
And to go through and be like, yes, all right, I'm gonna go through the growing pains. We're all gonna go into a locker room together and be like, don't look, you know, like we're all gonna do that. I don't know why I put on Sonic voice for that, but that's what happened.
Just whoa, don't look. But no, it's But it's so true though.
Yeah.
It's like a big part. Like we're humans are social creatures, right?
No doubt.
Right. And so without fail, um, part of growing up is like failing together. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like one of the most important things is to do stupid shit. Um, and I think you learn so much more from just doing something really stupid that you probably shouldn't do with a bunch of your grade 6 friends, and you all do something stupid and you all learn that it was stupid and there's a lesson out of it and you grow from it. I hopefully, right, I'm not advocating for people in grade 6 to like arson cars, but like everybody has, I feel like everybody has one of those stories. Like, oh, I remember in grade 6, like Johnny took his bike off the dirt ramp that he made because he wanted to try to do a backflip and he landed on his head.
Right.
Like, and like these dumb stories of like these things, or like so and so wanted like to wear cologne and what they grabbed wasn't cologne, it was like some other like aerosol spray shit or whatever.
Right.
And now
Pine
they smell
Sol.
like pine salt for the rest of the day, right? Like all these dumb things you don't know, you think you know and you don't know.
Mhm.
And there's a beauty in being young and stupid, and learning and growing through experience. um there's just so many things that your parents can't teach you, a school can't teach you, a counselor can't teach you. There's a lot of things that like sometimes you just got to go and kind of like run into the wall and realize, oh, when I run into the wall that hurts, I should probably not do that.
Right. Oh, the kid who has easily 100 pounds on me. Maybe I shouldn't try and fight.
Yeah, right. Like,
Which is something I
and,
recently dealt with at work.
ooh,
Like, I
ooh.
wonder why you lost that fight.
The worst part is though, I'm not gonna blame parents because I don't know the story, but my dad, who is a jackass, but like when I was a kid,
Or have
like
you
I
called him
remember.
Bad Dad Club?
Oh yeah, we got bad dad real bad. Oh yeah, let's go.
Let's go, gamers.
But like when I was a kid, I just remember because like I was nerdy, so I got bullied a lot. And my dad was like, "Listen, the easiest way to deal with it is like when there's a group of kids who are bullying you, you look at the biggest one and you just knock them in the face. And if you get in trouble with the teacher, I'll take care of you. Like you don't worry." You know what happened when I punched him in the face? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing happened. He laughed, and then the 5 of them kicked the crap out of me. And so it didn't matter that the teacher was going to suspend me for a day. That
Yeah.
didn't make me get the shit kicked out of me. You know what I mean? So it's like my dad's life advice for like picking a fight with the big bully to like assert your dominance. No, it was the worst thing I could have ever done.
And even if it did do some damage to the big dude,
Yeah,
like you have
you're
4
still
others.
gonna lose. Yeah.
They're like, okay, now it's 4-on-1.
Yeah, great, perfect. This is much better odds, you know.
Cool.
I'm not Goku. This is not gonna go well. Like,
No, I think there's something to be said for like lessons that we've learned throughout kind of I went to public school, like
yep.
we went to and it's a lot bigger than your schools, but it like we had like 30 kids to one desk. Like it was like a public school,
You just stack everybody on top of each other. Yep.
Just one table, I guess. You have a
All right.
pencil? No, none of us do.
All right, time to share the textbook.
Yeah.
Like,
Does the
God.
overhead projector work? Not anymore.
It did, and then somebody kicked it over, and the bulb broke, and it's not in the budget to get a new bulb until next year.
That's a very real thing.
Yep.
Yeah. There's so something that you mentioned earlier was said ADHD. Now, is that like
Yes.
official diagnosis?
It is not, and I know that a lot of people have a lot of thoughts on self-diagnosis, and I agree. I've done, yes,
Salt.
yes.
You're talking to a therapist.
I know. So here's my genuine problem for
Yes.
me, and I can't speak to the United States or anywhere else in the world, but for me in Canada, it's not covered. So for me to get an official diagnosis is a lot of money.
Really?
Yeah,
Y'all got the great. Y'all got great healthcare up there, though.
but we have great physical health care. So like to go to a hospital. So Canadian healthcare. Here's the thing: we talk out our ass about our healthcare, but it's not as good as it should be. We've got great healthcare. If I break my leg, I go to the hospital. They're gonna set it. They're gonna put a cast on it. They're gonna make sure everything's good. They're gonna send me out the door, and I'm gonna pay this much money. Exact big old goose egg. I'm paying nothing for any of that.
Canadian.
What's that? Yeah, big
Canadian.
old Canadian goose egg. Yeah, it's even bigger. It's even bigger and even more aggressive. But I have to pay for all of my dental. All of my dental. No dental is covered. Actually, our federal government is currently one of the opposition parties to the federal government has strong armed the federal government into giving us federal dental care. We'll see
Okay.
if it actually happens, but like there's been a big political move in federal politics where the most popular left wing party is in a position where they were like, "Hey, we're going to support you, but if we're going to support you, you have to give us this." And so basically kind of held the centrist party that's in power over the coals to get dental.
Okay. That's so interesting. Like,
Yeah.
we like, I would say down here, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you hear about it all the time, how it's definitely not great. I go and break my leg, I
Mhm.
have to pay a deductible before they start, like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
they're like, hey, that's $1,000, and then anything after that $1,000, we might cover.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
break?
because you have
You know
private, right?
what? You have a leg. That's a pre-existing condition.
Yeah, exactly, right. Whereas so that for hospitals and things like that, no,
Yeah.
we're covered. It's all good. But dental is not covered.
Okay.
Eye stuff is not covered, and nothing mental health related is covered at all.
See, that's
Um,
nuts. Like, it's all there's like, most, not all, but there are some that are like all of, yeah, you covered this, you covered this, and we'll cover the,
yeah. No, not like
or you do like a premium every month, and then we'll cover,
And so, like, if you have a solid job, you get a benefits package, and that benefits package will give you some coverage. So, like, so now, my job actually had a not great benefits package, and they finally updated to the 21st century. Basically, it was a case of like they had gotten this benefits package done in like 1997, and just never thought to like improve it. And then one day they kind of turned around and looked at it and went, "Oh, wow, our benefits package sucks. We should fix that."
All right,
and
fair
so
enough.
and so now it sucks less. But even still, even on that, I only get, I think, $1,000 covered for mental health, everything. And so for me, if I even just to go to a therapist, if I go, the most affordable therapist in my city is going to be about $110 an hour, which is I will never ever begrudge those prices. Those prices are because people are doing great things and they're helping and they're charging for a good reason. I do not begrudge
Also,
those
it's because
prices.
insurance runs the game, and we don't have a choice.
Sure, it's also because insurance runs the game. We don't have a choice. Absolutely. But
At
it's
least on
it's a
my
case of like, yeah, but like, so here it's like I could pay that out of pocket, or I can use the little bit of benefits I have. But if I use, so it becomes a thing of like, so okay, do I use my $1,000 for some good wellness check therapy sessions, or if I'm having a particularly rough month, spend it there to get myself through it, or do I use it to take like 50% off an adult ADHD examination, because they're generally running, for me, every time I've priced it out in Canada, they're generally running a couple $1,000s to do the full gamut to get the official diagnosis. And so a recent thing that I just became aware of, which is great, is that there is a company that is now doing like basically online consultation. So you would talk to a therapist digitally rather than in person.
Right.
And so because there's no building costs because all the therapists are operating out of their own spaces, like their own homes or whatever, right? A lot of the operating cost of a therapist building is gone, so they can offer things for a lot cheaper. And so the best price I've gotten is after taxes about $500, which is way cheaper, but it's still $500. The key to that, though,
No,
yeah,
I did not know that like none of that stuff. Like,
yeah,
like I
it's
said,
nasty.
we sometimes have deductibles and stuff like that, which can suck.
Well, it's because it's not the norm to have private health insurance here because we have public health insurance, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Like all of ours, like is either through your work or you got to go buy it yourself.
yeah, exactly. So it is not standard to have private health insurance. Um, so it ends up just being if your work gives it to you, and that becomes a privilege of do you have a job that's actually going to give you benefits? And if you're a part timer, you're not going to get it, right? So Canada does some things good, but there's some other things that aren't great, and definitely need to be improved upon. And how they handle mental health in this country needs to be fixed greatly. Um, and the other thing too that's unfortunate is because it's all online therapy with this, the catch-22 is my benefits don't actually cover it, so I'd still have to pay this out of pocket. It still ends up being cheaper for me because if I went the other route, I'm still going to pay about $1,000, right?
Yeah.
If I use all of my benefits for the year, I'd still pay about $1,000. Where this is going to be, I still have all my benefits and cost me $500, so it's still the better option. But this year has definitely been a year where I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my diagnosis, and then my car breaks down, and I got to spend a bunch of money repairing my car, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get my diagnosis, and then like another unexpected expense shows up. So
Cars know.
yeah, it's true.
Cars like know when you're like, all right, I'm gonna buy that thing that I want or that thing that I need.
Yeah, and so
And
for
your
me,
engine light comes on and you're like,
damn it!
what the
God
fuck?
damn it! Yeah,
Get
no,
out of
for real.
here.
No, I
Get in
had a
there and
really
reset it myself.
well. So like the thing that happened to me was that I was driving and I felt my car like shifting clunky, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I need to change my transmission fluid. It's been a while. And when I brought it to the mechanic, they're like, oh god, you have to flush your whole system. And like a transmission change, that's one thing. Transmission flush, it's the worst. So the other side of it too is I'm fairly new to the realization that I'm probably have ADHD. It didn't really, the pin didn't drop for me until I was in isolation.
Okay.
So I've always been a hyper extroverted individual. I've been somebody who's like, I'm always going out and doing things and like going to shows and playing in shows and like going to the bar with my friends and having drinks. And I used to host a karaoke night.
Are we the same fucking person? Like, I used to host karaoke in Portland.
Yo, I feel like we're just like the same person, just on the other side of a border. That's fucking hilarious, dude.
Like you guys, like legit, like you were the karaoke host.
Yeah, I was the KJ. Yeah.
God damn it! All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're talking about that, but not right now.
Okay, cool. We'll definitely talk about that. I have a lot of karaoke thoughts, man.
I have so many. So many, but I want to get your thoughts on this, and like I have like a question about this, and then we'll take.
Absolutely. So like what happened? So what happened for me? I was in isolation, and I just found myself really going stir crazy. I was finding that I was having a lot of difficulty remembering things. Like my short-term memory was becoming absolute ass out of nowhere.
Right.
And just all the stuff started happening. I started talking to people. Luckily, I have a lot of people around me in my life who are neurodivergent in various ways, whether they're on the autism spectrum, whether they themselves have ADHD diagnosed, or just elsewise neurodivergent. And a lot of them started, like, without telling me, but like gently nudging me that maybe you should like consider that maybe you're not as neurotypical as you think you might be. And so I started like kind of doing my own research, and I don't WebMD, but it was because it was something that was, to me, was very serious. I very much one of my biggest fears, and I think part of the reason why a big part of the reason why it took me so long to even feel comfortable to start saying that I think that I have it, or that I identify as somebody with ADHD, even though I don't have an official diagnosis, is there's a huge fear for me of talking over other people's true, legitimate, diagnosed, lived experiences. And I didn't want to be the type of person who like stuck his nose in a conversation that I didn't know for sure if I had a right to be in that conversation.
Fair. Fair.
And so I spent a lot of time kind of doubting it and just being like, no, I'm just extroverted and quirky, and I'm having a lot of trouble with being stuck inside. But
Yeah, no doubt.
there's a lot of self-diagnoses tests that you can take that are free, and it's like if you pass a certain threshold on this, you might want to talk to a therapist about possibly having this.
Yeah.
And I have taken like probably a dozen of them, of
Sure.
different ones from different places, and every single one of them has come back with like, you most likely are, you should talk to somebody, or you definitely are, you should talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, that is enough of a confirmation for me. I still want the official diagnosis, and the reason why I want the official diagnosis, on top of it, just like, yeah, I think it's good. If you can, you should. It gives me access to a few things that if I was to decide to go, say, down a path of like medicating, if I feel like I need to.
Right.
But it also, for me, gives me a no questions asked, solidified, this is why. When somebody goes like, why did you flake on me? Or like, why I sent you a message like 2 weeks ago and you never responded. And it's really hard to explain to people, well, that happened because I saw the message, the unread notification beside the message went away, so then the message stopped existing.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, very much so. And so that's why it's important to me to actually get the diagnosis.
Okay. And I appreciate those thoughts on it, because I'm very much in the camp of do research but don't self-diagnose.
Sure.
You're more than welcome to do research, and like you did, do some kind of online kind of questionnaires to just be like, is this kind of accurate? As long as they're from like legit websites and not, some kid being like, do you like Mountain Dew? You got ADHD. Like
Yeah, no, for sure.
like I don't really care for Mountain Dew that much, and it's just like, well, then you're a normie. And it's like,
Mhm.
wow.
So it's like, for me, I agree. I think self-diagnosis should be a last resort, because I think there's an intersection in here of mental health and class is ultimately where this kind of comes back to.
I would agree with that as well. In the world of lower socioeconomic status, like mental health is not easily accessible.
hmm
It sounds like even in the world where like there is literally public health care, it's still hard
Yep,
to access because of just
absolutely.
costs and jobs wanting to be like, hey, fine, or what?
Yep,
Is it
exactly.
nighttime for fucking 22 hours of the day?
You're
You're
okay.
fine.
You're okay. And so I
Don't
think
sweat.
I think that I do agree. I think the vast majority of people, if you can, you should. If you are in a position where you can get a diagnosis and you are actively choosing not to, there's a part of me that wonders if you're parading wearing a mask that isn't yours to wear. But I do think as well, it's really important to be sensitive to the idea that it might not be accessible to a lot of people.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's really tough to kind of have that conversation sometimes. But the harsh reality of it is like, there are people that you can see who look like they have it made, but they have like $10 in their pocket, because the world has been designed to make us look more affluent than we are. Like, I'm not a rich person, but I've got a really fancy Google Pixel. I've got really nice headphones. The car I drive looks really sleek, but it's used, right? This
Yeah.
this I got on Craigslist. The car I bought used, but all these things that I have make me look way more affluent than I am. So there's this like illusion of wealth that
Mhm.
people really don't have.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, and that's something that I feel like feel like that was like a conversation that we talked about on a stream fairly recently. I'm not even sure how it got brought up, but I think we were talking about cars specifically.
Yeah.
And I was like, my car's got like a touchscreen in it, and like it's fancy. I lease that shit. I can't flat out afford that. I'm gonna have to give it back in a few years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give it back and then throw down more money to get a car again.
Yep. Yeah, it's like my car looks really nice, but I bought it 5 years old. But a 5-year-old car still looks really sleek and ultra modern. It's got a touchscreen. It's got fucking heated seats and remote start because the person who bought the car originally put those features in.
Yeah.
So those features are in it, right? Yeah. So it really feels like I'm driving this bougie thing. I'm not. I'm driving a Chevy Sonic, by the way. I'm actually driving a Chevy Sonic. It's blue.
You would drive a Chevy Sonic.
Yeah. I literally couldn't resist. But it was the reason why I got it, on top of the fact that it was a blue Chevy Sonic, was just serendipitous.
Yeah.
The truth was, it was the only car that was in my price range with help from family, that wasn't going to like fall apart on me, that I found.
Right. Or like absolutely bankrupt you. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Completely. Like, yeah, I can buy it, but I can't put gas in it.
Yeah, it'll be, if I just cut a hole in the bottom, I'll just Fred Flintstone this to work. It's fine.
No biggie. Put on some good slides.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's I've picked up on in just working in this world is lower socioeconomic families, even with like Medicaid and things that are just like kind of like the most public health care that we have here. Obamacare, as it were.
Yes.
Like they don't realize that that's can be a part of it, or
Absolutely.
It comes from a cultural background where mental health isn't real. And this is the thing I'll say before we take a break here.
Sure.
I talked to a parent recently. I just got a referral for this kid, and I talked to his parent recently, and the parent said, I think the doctor said something about my kid having something called depression.
This little thing.
And I had to like stifle a laugh because I thought like it was it sounded sarcastic. It wasn't. The least smart ass thing I could come up with was, yeah, I heard of it.
Yeah, fuck, for real? Like,
but I had to talk with them about like, no, that's a real diagnosis. That's not just your kid's bummed out,
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Or that's not your kid doesn't sleep well, so they have low energy, whatever. Like there's so much more to it than like, I mean,
you got to dig that, right?
Okay, let's talk a little bit about this. Because like in their and long story short, in their mind, like depression was just like what happens after like a pet.
Yeah. Their idea of depression is just grief.
Yeah, kind of. Like it's like oh yeah, I'm bummed that this particular thing happened, or oh, that really delicious meal that I ate is now gone.
And now I have the womp womps. Yeah. No, exactly.
And I like had to explain that, like, no, it's real, 100% real. Diagnosis. It doesn't. It's not world ending. Like it doesn't have to be world ending.
Yeah.
Same with the like a generalized anxiety disorder. That's it's not. It doesn't have to be world ending.
But it's you should know so you can handle it.
Well, it helps. It helps in a lot of scenarios. And like the rule for me is like, give them the least invasive diagnosis that I possibly can.
Absolutely.
So like they're hot topic for me. There's some therapists out there that have given like 13, 14-year-olds like borderline personalities.
Oh, that's intense.
And I'm like, they're 13. They don't know who they are yet. Like
their personality is still in development.
Yeah, they haven't those brain functions have not developed. Their frontal lobe is barely there yet. It's there.
Sheesh.
But they have to be, they're like, well, you know, they take everything so seriously. And I'm like, yeah, but like the next day you talk to them about that exact same topic and they're going to be like, I don't care.
Yeah,
They're kids, man. They're kids. So like, are they struggling right now? Yeah. Are they extremely emotional? Yeah. Is that hormonal? Is that diagnosable? Is that just they need some more support in their life?
it takes time to find those things out. You can't just slap that in 1 second. Yeah, absolutely.
Drives me up a wall when I get like this thing from like a fucking doctor who's like borderline, and I'm like, 14. What are you talking about?
And it's like, you know, coming back to the whole thing for me where I was saying like I'm still tossing up the idea of like, should I get my diagnosis and my suspicion to be true? Do I medicate or not? I'm still not sure if I want to. But it's like I feel like a lot of times not to use the BP, the big pharma conversation, but like there is but like not to put that tinfoil hat on, but there is a concern, especially in particularly financially driven medicine, right? There is an allure to fast track a diagnosis, and you know, or a cure, right? And some things can't be cured, and some things shouldn't have to be cured. I will say this salt take, if you will. It's like I have so many lovely people in my life who are autistic and on the spectrum, and none of them want a fucking cure. They just want to be treated like fucking human beings, and like listened to and respected. That's you know, they don't need a fucking cure. They need to be respected for who they are and how they think and how they feel and how they engage with the world. You know, right. and it's I saw a comedian actually, comedian with cerebral palsy. I saw her on TikTok. She was talking about she's like, I have cerebral palsy. People say I suffer from cerebral palsy. I don't suffer from it. I have it. I suffer from people.
Yeah.
And like that's so true.
That's a very interesting like thought. I like that.
It's you know, I have it. It's a thing that I deal with on my day-to-day life, but the thing that I suffer from is everyday people who don't treat me like a person, who like dehumanize me.
Yeah, and like the whole like it's kind of a buzzword right now, the word neurodivergent. But literally neurodivergent means like you just don't have a diagnosis at the moment. Like that's literally like the definition. It just means like you just don't often I find as well, it's used in a lot of online communities for people being like, hey, so I have this brain thing, you have this brain thing. It's not the same brain thing, but we have different brain things. And the shared experience that we have is that when dealing with people who have none of these brain things, they downplay it. And so it's like a lot of shared commiseration. Yeah, and there's I was gonna use that exact word, like misery kind of loves their company. I will say the people that kind of, the thing that bothers me online, and this is actually something that is on streamer Twitter specifically, and it's so funny because every TravTalks has evolved into like just like bashing on streamer Twitter.
and now it's time for the dunking on streamer Twitter portion. It's okay. I'm game.
I don't know if you saw the one I posted the other day. It's just like, anyone ever heard of this? It's fucking Mario, and it's like Mario, shut up.
Yeah. The engagement farm is like, the crops are barren today. I better plant some easy seeds. Like, oh my god, it's so true.
Have you ever turned on a computer? Like, fucking yes. Like,
nope, still haven't. Nope, never.
You know what? Don't own one. But
I actually stream from an Abacus. I actually got OBS to run on it. It's just as good as on Windows. So like, what's the difference?
Genius. I got it to run on my my light controller actually.
Yep.
I'm like when I need to turn up my lights and whatnot. Like
yeah. OBS runs on that and Doom. OBS and Doom, only two things that run on it. Yeah.
Oh my god. But yes, what the thing I was gonna say was it's when people wear it as like this kind of like flaunting, like you should pay attention to me because I'm neurodivergent, you know?
Mhm.
It's like, well, hold on, let's like that's it's not necessarily like a yay thing when people are neurodivergent, because like there's a lot of suffering that takes place.
Sure, but I feel like a lot of that suffering, again, I feel like a lot of it's social. Some of it isn't, some of it isn't, but I feel like a lot of it is,
Mhm.
right? And so I feel like the internet overcorrects a lot. I say the internet like you can define it by one conglomeration, right? And I think
Streamer
that's
Twitter, yeah.
also I think with streamer Twitter, right? But I think that's the pitfall, right? Is like the pitfall is you can't you can't really define um the entirety of an amorphous online blog
Mhm.
by the actions of some loud folks, because
No doubt.
I know a lot of folks in my community, in my like home community, in my online community. um it's neuro calling themselves neurodivergent. And I feel like this is something we'll probably get into after the break, because I know you want to go on a break and we keep going on rants. I find it similar to I find people using neurodivergence similar to the ways that folks who are queer, like myself,
Sure.
will really glom onto their queer identity. Like I advertise quite publicly that I am pansexual. It's in my Twitter bio. It's in my Twitch bio. Um, and
Fucking pots. Anyway.
I do. I saw a good Teflon pan the other day. My God, it got me going.
Like,
Um,
boy, I'm in Target. I can't be here for long.
it was the last thing I saw before I came out of the cupboard, like all the other pans. But but the truth of the matter is, so like I find a lot of people are using it because there is there is so much stigma, and so like similar to how like
Okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Go ahead. Sorry.
like queer was a slur,
Yes.
and now it's not really considered one
It
anymore.
started as a slur.
It well, that's the thing, it didn't start as a slur, it became a slur.
Game one, and
and
now
then
people are like trying to take it back.
and then people have really started to take it back, and it's really interesting because there's areas of the LGBTQ community who are not comfortable with the term.
Right.
There are areas of the LGBTQ plus community who very much are attached to it as a term. In fact,
Yeah.
it's the only word they use is for their identity. They abandoned all specific other definitive words for their sexuality and
Right. Yeah.
chose queer. And I think that's fascinating. And I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. I feel like a lot of times the people who don't like using it are people who were really in the trenches of the social trenches of it when it was a hateful word. And so it's a trauma response, or it's a triggering phrase for them to hear. And so, you know, it's really interesting and sometimes tough to try and reconcile those two sides, and it's a thing that comes up in community and in conversation all the time. But so too, I feel like a lot of folks who call themselves neurodivergent, um, at least in my personal anecdotal experience, which is all I really have to go by, it's a it is a shorthand identifier that when you find another person who was also using that shorthand identifier, it's like a very quick, okay, we might have some common ground. What's on your list? What do you got? What do you got? And then you kind of rattle off. I'm like, I feel I have this, I have that. And it's not being like we now define ourselves by this, but it's this shorthand to immediately establish connection and understand where we're coming from, which is I find quite useful. Is it perfect? No, but nothing is. And
No,
I
same
think
same with like the LGBTQ thing. Like
sure,
it's not a perfect thing. Some people are like, don't put that in your bio. That makes you a target for hate. And like,
yep.
or
But why should
people,
I? But then other people are like, but why should I hide?
yeah, exactly. Like that. Like I guess that's a fair point in the sense that like it can be an identifier. I think there are definitely people that use it as exclusively an advertisement.
Sure, and I feel like
I think that's more what bothers me than
Yeah.
People using it to identify themselves, sure, of course. Like I got that big sad, like
Mhm.
totally, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
got that big sad. And like, would I use that to identify myself? Not necessarily, but I'm open to talk about it. But I
Hmm.
also don't like post a selfie and I'm like, I got big sad, you should follow me. Like,
For sure. And I think what it comes down to is with any identity that is going to exist,
mhm.
somebody is going to market to it or with it.
Oh yeah.
Um and it's for me, it's like I'll give the devil his due, so I have my own, right? And I'll roll my eyes at one person who is entirely commodifying their identity.
Mhm.
If it, but it's like, but it's theirs to commodify. You know, if they, it's okay. If they want to build a community based on the fact that they're an ADHD pansexual non-binary person, and that's their pitch, and that's what they really want to focus on,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, that's their choice, you know? Um, is it how I would do it? No. Pansexuality is a part of me, and I'm really proud of that, and I don't shy away from it, and I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
And you put me in a video game with cute people in it, and I'm going to have a panic attack, because that's just how I be. But
Yeah.
and I display my pan flag intentionally as visibly as possible.
No doubt.
Um, I'm not shy about it, but ironically, what ended up happening, which was never intended, for me, was that the brand became about me being a fucking hoser, and that was never intentional. It just happened.
No, like
uh,
that's something that we can talk about, like
mhm,
with the world of online growth. Like, how does it become what it is, right?
mhm.
Did you intentionally go out there being like, I'm a fucking hoser? You know, like, was that intentional? Not necessarily. Maybe you just made a
No,
joke about it, and everyone was like, I love that shit. Keep doing it. And you're like, all right, whatever.
100%. That is exactly what happened.
Yeah,
Um,
like that's not necessarily your intention, but like, hey, like that's cool. I get this from my chat every so often. They're like wholesome chat energy right here,
yep,
and I'm like,
yep.
thank you. you know?
Whereas like so oh man, okay. Let's talk about that, but I feel like you've been trying to go to break for like 15 minutes, 20
I have
minutes
had to
now.
pee for like 20 minutes, but
We'll talk about branding and the things that chat has come up with that I've just ridden with, because there are so many.
oh sure, yeah, no doubt. Like I would say a big part of it is like the community brings with them, whatever it is, and you're like, yeah, let's run with it. Y'all like it,
Oh
let's
yeah.
run with it. And
Oh yeah.
there are some streamers out there who are just like, I don't give a shit what my chat has to say. I'm doing my own thing. Like, all
You
right,
got to make it yours, right?
100%. So, chat, we will be right back. We'll be back in about 5-ish minutes or so. Run to the restroom, fill up my waters and stuff like that. As soon as we're back, we'll jump into it, and then we will also have a little Q&A at the end. And the Q&A, I don't know if anybody's been a part of it before, but you can ask Salt questions, you can ask me questions, you can ask both questions related to or not related to what we've been talking about. Because one person came in on another TravTalks and was just like, "What's your favorite Spider-Man comic?" And I was like, "Huh."
That's an awesome question.
That's a good question, because I grew up with Peter Parker, but I love the inclusivity that is Miles Morales.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
Spider-Man
Absolutely.
77X or whatever is really fucking cool,
Fucking cool. That's awesome. I fucking love it.
Yeah, so
I'm excited for that too. I'm an open book. You can ask me a goddamn anything.
absolutely. So that'll be our Q&A here. So yes, we'll be back in 5-ish minutes or so. I'll leave you. We are listening to our boy Salt's here music, and we'll turn it up for you while we're gone. See y'all in 5-ish minutes.
See ya.
the song's Bounty Hunter, specifically about Samus. Oh, you are muted, my friend.
Oh, let's fix that. That one is. There we go. I have too many mutes. I have the mute on my mic. I have the mute in Discord. So I thought I unmuted, but I didn't unmute everything.
No, that's okay.
But no, so that Bounty Hunter song, that is definitely a Samus nod. So there's actually 2 of them on the album, back to back. I collaborated with an amazing content creator as well. His name is Ashton. He's out of the UK, and he also was in a UK kind of like indie rock band. But he's also a pal of mine, and so he came in and did all the guitar work for me on that track and on the sequel, Bounty Hunter Part 2. And basically, the second one was an act. Right. What's that? Oh,
it's
is it?
Playing right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one was an accident. That riff you're hearing, he played the riff out of tune, and I was like, no, I can use that, and so I made a whole second song out of it. But no, he's an absolutely incredible guitarist. I've worked with him on about 3 songs now of his with him, and it's been an absolute blast. But yeah, that one is about Samus. This one I was feeling a little bit more doomy.
I just like I sat down and I heard like the last like 45 seconds of it or so, and I was like, this feels like it's from
So a lot of the music that I write, I've jokingly said a lot of it is from video games that don't exist yet. I find a lot of the instrumental stuff there's a lot of game culture in the music that I listen to and the stuff that I've absorbed, and so when I start writing electronic music, it tends to fall that way, which is kind of fun.
No doubt. Yeah. Well, we've been listening to it this whole time, so you're welcome for like your penny or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. It'll give me like an extra 2 cents, but it makes me feel really good. It makes me. Yeah, that's it.
So we were talking about Twitch growth and kind of just content creator like general growth. And we will do the Q&A here in just a little bit, because I know you have kind of like a hard line. Time to go to bed.
I would say with the way things are, so we kind of lucked out in that the person who I was worried about keeping up actually ended up not being in the house tonight. So we got a little bit longer. We have got a little bit longer than we originally thought we were going to be, but I didn't know that until today. So
okay, well that we'll still kind of we'll play it by ear, and we'll kind of
yeah. We'll let things run how they need to run, but I just don't want you to be too worried about if things are running over, because I'm not stressed about it.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to make sure too, because like
I appreciate it.
Originally, we're salt.
You're right, and I want to make it very, very clear. Trav has been nothing but exceedingly accommodating and wonderful.
So we're talking about that content creation growth, right?
Yes.
And how the community that you bring in, however you get them in, right? Whether that's through like TikTok or Instagram, Twitter, anything like that, like, first question, do you think your growth happened more naturally from Twitch or from something else?
My growth happened exclusively from Twitch, actually.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit of Twitter, but like I said, I don't have a YouTube presence currently. I have very little of a TikTok presence. The only social media I really use that often is Twitter. My growth came from networking, and not in a like schmoozy businessy way, but in a when I first started, my original plan, like so many people, was I just wanted to stream to some friends. I was bored and isolated and alone, and I couldn't really hang out with my friends. But I was like, hey, I'm gonna go live and play video games, and we can just chat. So I had a few friends, and like one of my partners was pretty regularly in the chat as well, and we would all just kind of hang out, and then other people would show up from time to time, and that was really cool. And I was just having a good time. I wasn't even looking to like make money at it. I just wanted to have fun. Shortly after that, a very, very, very old friend of mine from the end of my first run in university. We didn't go to universities together, but he worked at a Starbucks, and I worked 2 doors down from him at, and this is going to be the most fucking Canadian thing you'll ever hear, but I worked at a poutine shop. Literally all we sold was poutine.
I have not had poutine in my life. So sorry, Canadians in chat.
You're in for a treat. If you ever make your way north of the border, you're in for a treat. A horrific, greasy, disgusting mess, but a treat.
Everything about it sounds awesome. Like,
it's fucking amazing. It's drunk food. Like I think some people get the wrong idea where they're like, oh, poutine is like this fancy thing. I'm like, no, it's a goddamn disaster. It's the sloppiest, dirtiest thing.
Yeah.
But it's great. And so that was my job. I was the night shift supervisor at this poutine shop in the middle of like one of the bar districts in the city. And so it'd be one of those things where like at 2 o'clock in the morning, gravity would shift and everybody would fall out of all the bars and directly into my front door. And so I became very good friends with the people at Starbucks because I would get a huge, obscenely large coffee with a stupid amount of espresso shots in it, and that would power me till 4 o'clock in the morning. That was how I did it. So he and I were friends back then, and then we kind of went our separate ways in life, and we didn't really talk for like 7 years. And I just happened to notice on Facebook, of all social medias, that he was also starting to stream on Twitch about 2.5 weeks after me. And so I hooked up and I shot him a mess. I'm like, hey, I'm streaming on Twitch too. We should like, hang on each other's streams and like bump each other up. Yeah. And so we started doing that. I had like at the time like 30 followers and he had like 15. But he had a buddy who he went to school with who had been streaming a little while longer, and he had like a couple hundred followers, which I was like, holy shit. And so I met him and became friends with him. These people, just for people's interest, is Rob Russo Music. He used to be known as the Roblin. Now he mostly does music on Twitch. And then another guy known as the Playmat, who's an incredible D&D DM. And so these two lovely people, through the Playmat, he raided into a lovely guy by the name of Bosch, who is another hilarious content creator.
I feel like I've heard that name.
You probably have. He's a great guy. One of the most genuine, nice people I've ever met. I recently finally got a chance to meet him. He's an incredible human being. And through Bosch, I met a bunch of people like Riggy2K3, DZPG1, and I met their community, and it was like, so that was the connection for me. Through that, I met these people, and then I made this community, and all these people, all of us at the time, they all look like giants to me in terms of like their numbers, but looking back on it, they're all like 300-400 followers, 500 followers maybe, right?
Which is nothing to scoff at.
Which is nothing to scoff at. No, absolutely.
In there who are like, oh, I only have like, that's
not
only 300. Okay, that is 300 separate people.
You are very right to call me out on that, and I actually appreciate that you kind of humbled me there a bit, because you're 1000% right. I'm downplaying the absolute success there, but it was just like the point ultimately for me was like I was like flabbergasted that these people even wanted to fucking talk to me,
No doubt.
Let alone help me out, show me the ropes, and like I learned a lot about community building through a lot of these people. I've said it before and I'll say it again. And like DZPG1 and Riggy2K3 are two people that I genuinely consider true friends. Speaking of meeting, they've stayed at my house. I've stayed at their house, and they live in like Philly. Like we've driven 8 hours to go hang out with each other.
That's awesome.
And we've done, yeah. And so like it's this real sense of community. And that was when I kind of really, for me, knew what I wanted my channel to be about and how I really wanted to be community focused, but community focused in my own way. Because every single one of these channels, obviously, they have their own flavors. They do their own thing.
And I would be hard pressed to meet a streamer that doesn't say that they're like community focused,
So that's true. That is true. I find some channels are more community focused than others.
No doubt. That's my point.
Yeah.
But like, if
Yeah.
you ask most streamers, they're gonna be like, "Of course I pay attention to my community," and then
Yeah.
you're like, they like ignore their chat for like 30 minutes and like
Yeah,
see all sorts
exactly.
of stuff like that. You know?
Yo Benny, yo Mikey, I see you. But no, it's true though. The thing that I find so fascinating is like words versus actions, and and the people that I find myself the people that I find.
Why did nobody say anything that I was quiet?
Crank that mic up. I'm a loudmouth.
Well, okay, but I also don't want to like fucking scream and kill anybody.
That is fair. I have the stream up, but I have it muted because I can hear you through Discord, and I don't want the double go.
Totally understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me. I always appreciate it when people are letting me know. 'Cause it just happens sometimes.
Absolutely. But yeah, so
Let me know
like
if
for
that's any
me,
better, y'all.
for me, it was really learning what it meant to be like community focused, and that really kind of drove me to look at what I wanted my community to look like. Do we still need to adjust levels? We can wait a second, get them
Is
real
that
good.
like according like my levels on OBS, they were like pretty much the same, but I can like turn up my gain and stuff, you know, to make sure that we're here on the same spot. Like,
well, let's hear. I'll see what
I don't know. I no one's ever said anything before, and that's you goofy chatters out there not saying anything to me for months. It's fine. It's not episode 10 yet. It's not a formal operation.
No, you got time. You got time still.
More equal now. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, we got there. Cool.
Because
Cool.
I can turn Salty down a little bit.
All right. Yeah, you can also shut me up.
Never.
People sometimes people need to. But yeah, so it was for me. It was really about finding what the community meant for me, and that's kind of where my personal identities started being like a good reaching across the table, because I wanted to find other like-minded people.
Yeah.
We've worked really hard to try and foster a welcoming space. We try really hard to foster a safe space, and I know that has become a buzzword in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
And I find that safe space often becomes a weaponized space, because it swings so far the opposite direction. When I want to have a safe space, for me, the importance of it is this place a place where people of various disenfranchised communities feel welcome and invited, but also is this a place where people can learn? And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes bigotry comes out of a place of ignorance, and that ignorance can be willful, or that ignorance can be incidental.
Ignorance in the sense that they don't know versus
correct,
like chosen ignorance.
Correct, right? And there is a huge difference between willful ignorance and just not having been around it. And I recognize that because I remember a lot, again, who I was in high school. There are things that I thought and believed that are not good, and it was an uneducated knowledge of the world, because I just had never been around people that weren't white Christians. And I'm not even like, I am atheist agnostic, but like the socio political world that is shapes you. Even if you don't believe in it, it still shapes you and affects the way you look at things.
Right. Yeah.
And so for me, it's a case of like, I want to be able to give people a chance to learn. And like, if somebody asks a question, I've had people ask questions about my sexuality. I've had people ask sometimes invasive questions about my sexuality, but I would rather answer them if I feel comfortable to do so, and actually take somebody at face value and answer the question. Because even if they're just trying to get a reaction out of me, even if they're just trying to troll me, there might be somebody else quiet in chat who has been thinking about this question and has been too afraid to ask, and they get the answer that they want or need. And if this person turns out to be a troll, I can always block them afterwards. But I always give people one shot. You get one shot.
I will say that I am the exact same way. I'm like, you get a solid like chance to like, if you come in and you're just like, I'm gonna post like an ASCII dick, you know, it's like, all right, whatever, fucking just delete that message. It's like, come on, man, like grow up, you know. You can kind of you can move right past that kind of stuff. And on the opposite side of that, also somebody like who comes in and like say we're like, because I have a few members of my community who are in the trans community, and you know, they go by like different pronouns than like they were assigned at birth or whatever, right? So they, you know, and then like somebody's like, well, like if you got the parts, you're still that, and I'm like, gender isn't a construct, so let's talk about that before you know, before we have like a shitty like argument in the chat and everyone starts attacking everybody, and it's like, hold on, let's talk about this, let's make sure that we're on the right side, you know.
Sure, absolutely. And like sometimes you can facilitate that conversation, and if you can, I think you know, when people talk about what it means to be an ally, when people talk about what it means to be an ally, for me, being an ally is where you can and where it's appropriate, doing the labor, doing the work. You know, if one of my partners is agender, or all genders, or no genders depending on the day, and my best friend in the entire world is trans, and I'm bathed and swathed in the incredible queer community here in Toronto, which is huge and ever growing and ever spiraling in growth and expansion, and it's beautiful and magical, and it's one of, I genuinely believe Toronto has one of the best queer communities in the world.
Sounds great.
And so I've been fortunate and blessed enough to be around people and learn from people and have people patient enough to educate me when I was a much younger and dumber person.
Right.
And I want to be able to impart that to other people as much as I can without being preachy and without being shamey. And of course, you know, if somebody's not going to listen and they want to be shitty, then they get the ban hammer to move the fuck on. Who the hell cares? But
exactly, that's why we have people in the same way that you probably in your mod team have the same people in my mod team who agree with me on these things. Like, no, if you're gonna be shitty after I've tried to educate you and be cool with you, then fuck off.
My mod team is great because, you know, when they're not harassing me, they really do keep the community safe. They do keep the community playing nicely. They're very, very good at giving gentle nudges when things need gentle nudges, and more forceful nudges when they need more forceful nudges, and they'll swing the hammer if they've got to. Fortunately, we don't really have that issue a lot, which I'm really happy with.
I also hadn't had that issue for months, and then there was one night I had to eat. It was like, what the fuck is it? Like, it's a Wednesday. What the hell's going on? You know,
you never know, right?
Yeah, and you don't. And that was just something that just happened. People just kept coming in. Scuba was very like what the hell's going on? I haven't had to do this much work in a really long time.
For real.
Which is wonderful, because it means people are coming in and being welcoming and happy and, you know, enjoying their lurks or whatever. But then people coming in and being just you know, just I don't know, something shitty like Trump 2024, and I'm like, shut up.
Okay, fuck off. Shut up. Come on. Yeah, for real. No, and so it's the same here, where I really don't get that many trolls, and honestly, most of the trolls I get are just people who are clearly 14. And I'm an 18 plus streamer.
Same.
But the way that I'm an 18 plus streamer is to put it candidly, I remember when I was 15 years old on the internet.
Sure.
I went to a lot of places that I wasn't supposed to go as a 15-year-old on the internet. But do you know what I did when I went to those places where I wasn't supposed to be when I was 15 years old on the internet?
Jacked off?
I went sure, absolutely, that too. But I didn't fucking announce my presence.
No.
You know,
Never.
like I didn't show the fuck up to a place that specifically says if you are under 18 you're not welcome, and go, hi, I'm a kid,
Yeah.
and then get upset when I go, okay, you're gone now. You know, like
Right.
it's there's don't be stupid, kids. If you're listening to this,
Which you shouldn't be.
which you shouldn't be, because it's an 18+ stream, so you shouldn't be here. But if you are here, just fucking lie and don't be an asshole. Like, just be respectful.
Yeah, don't put the onus on me because you are somewhere you weren't supposed to be.
And if you think that we can't tell that you're 15, we can tell. We can tell. Like, we know right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't be listening. Who the fuck am I? Your dad? Well, hopefully not.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, well, but yeah, and so like the brand became like, I wanted it to be a safe spot. I wanted it to be the thing that I've always said is like, I'm the Salt King because like I can get grumpy at games, and it's really fun to like put me through hell. When I first started streaming, I was playing Super Rubber Ross World, which was
insane. Yeah.
So I got Mario Maker and I got Super Rubber Ross World, and the first thing I played was just me suffering through it because one of my partners was really is super into the grumps, super into that whole community and Rubber Ross and all that stuff. And they were very much like, I would love to see you play this. And I said, fuck it.
Fuck it.
And so on top of other stuff I was playing, I played that once a week for 6 fucking months, and I beat it. But it took me 6 months.
Good
it took
on
me
ya.
6 months.
Good on
But
you
for me, yeah, it's one of my, honestly, it's legitimately one of my proudest accomplishments. I can't fucking believe I did, but we did do it. But it was like, being salty doesn't mean you have to be toxic. Like, you can get grumpy and get pissed off and tell the game to fuck off, or like drop the controller and walk away for a minute and be tilted without being a scumbag. And I feel like a lot of people, when they think of like salty, they think of like, oh, you fucking piece of shit, and then like they're yelling like fucking slurs and explicatives because they're so tilted. When really I think being salty is just like getting got and reacting to the fact that you got and kind of like sitting in that. And sometimes it's the game that gets you, and sometimes it's chat that gets you, and sometimes it's your own hubris that gets you, which was a big one for me. I
was getting salty last night, and you, and maybe you could attest to this, and maybe I'm just bad at video games. But it's that tower enemy in Sonic Frontiers where you have to like do like the loops around it.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
So
your vision gets obscured every like 3 seconds because of one of the legs comes in front of the thing, and it's a fixed camera angle, or at least for me it was a fixed camera angle. So I'm like, it's stupid.
What the fuck is this?
And then you get hit, and I'm like, what's the point of rings? You know?
The point of rings is to go faster.
That's in Mario Kart. So come on.
No, those are coins.
Not on the Zelda level.
That's true. Have you maxed out your ring your ring count when you're playing Sonic Frontiers?
No.
Do it.
Oh, okay.
Do it. I won't tell you why, but do it. Make a point to max, like not your bottom number, but like so let's say it's like 400. It starts off like you can get up to 400 rings.
Bottom.
Pardon?
So don't assume I'm a bottom. But what?
I don't make any assumptions about anything. I've learned that's a thing we've learned. But no, so like if you've got like say out of 400 rings, if you get 400 out of 400 rings,
right, you get the little blue eye zappy thing.
Yeah, and you go twice as fast.
Yeah,
it's the fucking best.
But if you do like the if you like max out the level of rings you can get, is there something even crazier?
I don't know. I am playing the game on high speed mode, and then I went into the settings and turned all the speed sliders up to max from there. So I don't know if it can possibly go any faster because I'm like snorting this game. It's ridiculous. But so then
Just
like the
fucking
Canadian thing.
Railing this game.
Oh! So the Canadian thing came because so I started streaming in December.
Got it.
So I started streaming in December, and in Canada, there's an old, it's a very long explanation, but there's an old Canadian comedy troupe, and these two guys named Bob and Doug McKenzie. And they're like your stereotypical, oh, welcome to the Great White North, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, you fucking hosehead.
Yeah.
And they had a song called The 12 Days of Christmas, and it's their version of it, and it's like the Canadian version.
Of
And they
course.
replaced it like on the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a beer and other random shit like that.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to that on stream, and somebody was just like, somebody who wasn't from Canada didn't understand why it was so funny. And so I was trying to explain like about the culture of hosers and like small town Canadians, like, oh fucking A. And I started doing like my impersonation of every hoser I grew up around.
Yeah, of course.
And people thought it was the funniest thing. And so I made it a channel point redemption. For 700 channel points, I'll talk like a hoser for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And it just like became one of these things that just took the fuck off.
Oh yeah.
And in a way that like that's, I've had that channel point redemption since like my first month streaming, and I'm never gonna get rid of it.
Right.
There's others that have come and went, but that one stuck from the beginning. And it's the same with like behind me, you can see a very blurry Magikarp.
Yes. I see him.
That Magikarp is Mr. Fish.
Mhm.
I got him in Japan years ago, and he used to always be in the background of my streams, and he still is to this day.
Right.
And so when I was making emotes for the first time, I made my own emote that was just Magikarp, and it said hype, and that was my hype emote.
Sounds
And then Mr. Fish became like, and basically like the mascot of the channel. And now we have this one, which is a much nicer one that was made for me by my best artist friend. And so like dumb things like Canadian shit and Mr. Fish and random other stuff just kind of came from it. And the rest of it kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
Now we have a saying on the channel called Death in Praxis, because I would be playing things like Super Rubber Ross World or Celeste, where I would die over and over and over again.
Mhm.
But chat, to keep themselves entertained, would get into like intense leftist political conversations. And so we'd be talking about like leftist politics, and like queer politics,
Mhm.
and like disability politics. We have a lot of people in the community who are disabled.
Mhm.
And so we would get into all this conversation about like about the praxis of it all. And one of my mods came up with the phrase, watching Salt means that the only two things are inevitable in a Salt stream are death and praxis. And so that's become a thing. I have that on fucking hats and shit now. And it's kind of true, is like the two things you can get for sure is you're going to watch me die a whole bunch. And we're hopefully going to talk about like social justice in a healthy and hopefully positive, forward-moving way.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and like we were talking about before too, like you have people who come in while you're talking about that. It's like without fail, like almost like you're talking about that kind of stuff, and somebody comes in and is just like, I don't feel that way specifically about this thing, you know?
Yep.
And hopefully they're respectful and can talk about it openly and, you know, have an actual decent conversation. Or
Absolutely.
they, you know,
They get yeeted.
or they tell you that they're gonna, you know, assault my partner or something, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, like something awful, and it's like,
oh, absolutely.
okay.
It's not a thing that I've directly had experienced in my stream, but I've had the attack helicopter. I've seen the attack helicopter joke be made in a trans streamer's stream, and it was just one of those things of being like, these people have two jokes, and this is one of them. Fuck off, and just get kind of like yoted.
Yes. Like, yeah. I identify as an attacker.
It's like, cool. That's you're joking, but I hope you realize that if you weren't, I'd be like, that's cool, dude. Do your fucking thing.
Literally.
Like come on.
Any
like
other joke, please.
Give me something. Give me fucking something else to work with, for the love of God. But yeah, it's a lot of. It's been really cool. One of the best things that I've ever heard in all of my time streaming was I had a member of my community message me privately, which I know a lot of content creators, a lot of streamers aren't comfortable with private messages. Mm-hmm. I am, because I'm comfortable with setting my limits.
Yes.
If I've become very good at keeping boundaries, and if somebody steps over those boundaries, I've become very good at, with no disrespect, being like, hey, this is a bit much. There's no issue here, but I do need you to take a step back. And I've had it happen a couple times. I've had it happen a couple times in a couple of different ways, and every single time it's been healthy, because, you know, if you come at it from a position of, I don't think that there's malice here. I think that there's just like, a lot of times it's just like somebody wants to have a solid connection with somebody, and that's kind of our job. Like there's a lot of concern about like parasocial things. Mm-hmm. And I think the best way to navigate it is just to, you know, be open and honest, and keep your boundaries and set your boundaries and make those things clear. So I don't mind having my DMs open. I had somebody in the community message me once and basically said, like, because of you introduced me to people in this community. Those people have helped me discover so many important things about myself that I always knew, but I never like knew how to articulate it or knew how to feel. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, basically like I found a safe place, like a legitimate safe place in this community. And, you know, having somebody say, like, because of the people that you introduced me to and because of your stream and the community that you've built, I feel more like myself than I was before I met you. Like, I could turn off this camera and never do this again, and I would feel 100% happy with the end result of this stream, because like that's the fucking best. That's the fucking best thing.
Yeah, no, and I that it's the same thing. Like, I got a message a little while ago, a few months ago, that was just like, I turn you on when I turn on your stream. I turn on your stream, and even if I'm having a really shitty day, it gets turned around because of what you said or what you do.
And God, isn't that just a fucking hope?
And I'm like, you know, like,
yeah.
And it was just, it feels so good to just know that, like, I'm not sitting here on ninja numbers. I'm not sitting here on amaranth numbers. Like, that's not a thing, right?
No.
Would I be opposed to that? No, of course not. But the idea of like those are the things that, like, those are the messages that feel so good to get. And I'm the same way as you. Like, the DMs are open. I'm willing to I'm even willing to talk with people about, like, I've talked with it about a couple of people, like, they're like, I think these are the symptoms I'm feeling. And I'm like, I'm not going to diagnose you over a DM, but
look into these things.
Here's what it's kind of like sounding a little bit like. Mm-hmm. And like, here's a website or whatever to find therapists in your area, you know?
And get somebody on the right path, right?
Yeah.
I've definitely, there have definitely been people in my community that have gone through mental health journeys in the time that I've known them, and it's so beautiful to see them like learn these things about themselves and see that journey of self-discovery. Or there are people I know who have learned about disabilities they have,
Yep.
or their queer identity, folks who may have been questioning for a long time, but they didn't feel like they had a comfortable place to really kind of test those feelings out. Where like you come into my stream and you say that somebody's fucking cute, I like, please don't do it to me. I don't mind. You can flirt with me a little bit, but don't make it too intense. But like when somebody's like, oh, that character on the screen is really fucking cute, and they're not somebody who has outed themselves as a queer person, but that's like not a heterosexual attraction they're expressing. I'm like, cool, this is a place where I can foster that. I'm like, you're damn right. And maybe people can learn something about themselves, or find a journey of self-discovery, and that to me is amazing. You had mentioned like it'd be kind of cool to have you're like, I wouldn't say no to those Amaranth numbers, but in a weird way I was thinking about it, and I honestly don't know if I want those kinds of numbers. Like, it's like I would be
a selfish thing in my mind in that scenario.
Oh no 100%, because I get it, because like at the end of the day you're hitting those numbers, you're set for life, right? Like
hopefully
you can.
I don't own a gas station like Amaranth does, but
listen, I have nothing but the utmost fucking respect for Amaranth.
Fuck yeah, dude. Absolutely.
Like, it's one of those things too, especially like to get into the harder kind of recent reveal of the truth of everything that was going on behind the scenes that we didn't know about for so long. But to see that, especially now, today, that she's in a place where she has kicked her abusive partner to the curb, as far as I know. I don't know if that's changed, but as far as I know, that person at least has been reined in, and she's very much in control of the content she creates.
Yes.
As far as we know, she's in control of the content she creates. She's in control of the decisions that are being made on her channel. That's incredible.
Awesome.
To fucking be at a point where you can do you hustled one way, and in hustling that way, you've been able to start funneling finances into the things that you truly care about. That's beautiful. That's fucking cool.
Yeah, and I think and that too also, like, that's just kind of how the way investments work, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
In the most before this turns into a business bro podcast.
Yeah.
If you're not talking business with your bros, then what are you even talking about? But yeah, the idea of like being able to, like, she's even like on record being like, I don't make a fuck ton of money from streaming.
No,
I make it from my gas station and other like business things that I've done.
Yeah, I mean,
I like thought about that, and I was like, yeah, you know what? A gas station's something that's never gonna like go out of business unless it's in like a really like rural type situation, or a Costco opens up across the street and like does it for like 30 cents less or some crazy nonsense,
Yeah, and like, well, I mean, the other side of it too is like she uses her Twitch as a billboard for her other content, which she makes more money doing. And I think, frankly, I've said it time and time again. I'm like, listen, as long as there are people who will pay money for sex, sell it.
Sell it.
Fucking sell it.
Oldest profession in the book.
It shouldn't.
Those Bible people out there, it's in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, it's and I again, I actually have no problem saying this either, because it's a very public thing. But like, again, one of my partners is a sex worker. That job has truly, in a lot of ways, been the best thing that ever happened for them, because it's an industry that they control the product, they control how it's being, they're their own business person, they control the product, they control how it's being distributed, they set their own prices, they're in complete and total control of everything that they're doing, and it's completely and totally self-sustaining in a way that a lot of other jobs that you can get aren't.
Right. There's definitely
just
people.
aren't.
Yeah, and but like you said, like I think that's you hit the nail on the head there with that one sentence of they control a product.
Yeah,
Like
it's theirs.
people, and I think you commented on it, but it was like how Twitter is for me with my sex worker friends. You know, it's just like,
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
My biggest my biggest pet peeve about the way Twitter works is that I want to like boost the algorithms of all the sex worker friends I have, but when I boost the algorithms of all the sex worker friends I have, it means my asexual friends who don't want to see that suddenly get asses in their timelines because I liked it, right? And it's like, okay, well, and literally I was just like, I guess I'm making a perv account not because like I need a perv account. I have no shame. I have no shame in being interested in things and supporting sex work, but like I want to be able to boost my friends without condemning like my ace and demi folks who don't want to see booties on their timeline. Like they just like it's a tough balance, but you got to balance it, right?
Yeah, it's funny because like I thought of that exact same thing. I'm like, oh, I want to like help my friends, but like what about those? What about people who don't want that?
Yeah, and it's like,
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't mean. Well, I'm just trying to help, but like, I'm not ignoring your content. I promise. You know.
Yeah. and it's also like particularly tough too because you're taught you factor in things like sex workers getting shadow banned, just for existing, or getting deplatformed just for existing. Which is, you know, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this conversation because I don't want to spend more time talking about a muskrat than he already gets publicity for. But it's alarming to see what's currently happening with Twitter. Oh, me too. But it's alarming to see what's happening to Twitter because it is one of the few like safe havens for sex workers in social media at this point. And it's very scary to see that possibly fall apart because that is a dangerous thing for the livelihoods of a lot of people. And so like as much as we're all having giggles hoping that, you know, this is the worst fucking $44 billion investment anyone's ever made, and I really want to watch it tank to the fucking ground, I worry for the people who get dragged into the earth with it. That's my biggest concern, right?
Yeah, definitely. You do worry for the people who also who literally can make their living off of Twitter, you know, like that is the biggest, like, it's like literally one of the biggest billboards you can possibly have, you know?
Absolutely.
If they're like, and like, you're right, before we go too far down that, it's like Amaranth, man. She's got like at least near or over 1 million followers. It's a huge advertisement, you know?
Huge. Yeah.
And it's gonna bring people in there, and it's amazing for her. I love that. I you know, want her to succeed. I want all my sex worker friends to succeed. But yeah, I'm the same way where I'm just like, I kind of want him to be dragged into the earth more than like the platform itself.
Exactly.
Although I do like the idea of him buying a platform for 44 billion and then being like, I did it, Redditors, and then like, and then it all just burns to the ground.
I would like to see a Tumblr happen to Twitter where he buys it for 44 billion and like sells it for under $1 billion to somebody because he has no other choice, to somebody else who is no longer fucking, what was his name, Jack, and is not Elon, and maybe, no guarantees, but maybe the person who fucking buys it recognizes the value of the thing and can actually like continue to bolster it as a platform like it should be. Because a smart person would just buy it, undo the stupid things, and let the thing run itself again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that. It just came up because we were talking about sex work and being deplatformed, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's wild to talk to like safe for work content creators to differentiate here, who talk about their struggles with getting payments from PayPal, or like people who have talked about people who have talked about their Twitch payouts getting held back for some reason. I have fortunately never experienced this, but I've seen it happen, right? And like it's wild to see like all these people struggling to get the money that they're rightfully owed. Meanwhile, like that is a Tuesday for the average person with an OnlyFans account. Like it is such a struggle. Like sure, maybe you made $50,000, but good luck pulling it out because sometimes you just fucking can't. They freeze up your account.
Oh yeah, do you remember the whole MasterCard thing with OnlyFans? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
When they were like, well, we're gonna start accepting it, so if I see a nipple, I swear to God, you know, like. And then thankfully that like never went through. I don't think it ever went through, at least.
It did. So ever since then, the rules and regulations and stipulations of what you can and cannot do on OF have gone through the roof. On top of that, the amount of verification and re-verification and re-verification you have to do has gone through the roof. I know so many content creators on OF who have had like entire sets taken down because a bot that was looking at their stuff saw another person. They hadn't gotten verification that other person was legal age and everything, so they shut it down. But the two of them were both workers. They both had separate accounts. They just took photos together. They're both tagged on the photos, but the bot didn't know how to do that and tore them all down. There are people who have had stuff. There are people who've had like photos taken down with their eyes closed, and that gets flagged as being unconscious, which is not acceptable. And so that gets taken down. Like it's rough because it's all being done. It's all being automated by bots, right? Because it has to process that much content.
Right. Like you can't just leave that to people.
You
would need staff of like 1 billion people. But like
exactly. And so it's not OF's fault. OF is doing what they have to do because otherwise they don't have access to credit card processing, which means they can't make money. So the problem is you're getting these extreme fundamentalist beliefs being held by the owners of credit card companies, and they're the ones who are ultimately calling the shots, and that's a scary thing. That's a really scary thing to think about because there's only like 4 of them, 3 of them. So
I guess if you
so you know there's your dark thought of the day. I'm sorry, everybody.
Switch it to the Q&A part.
I'm sorry about that, y'all.
Sorry, we got like all fucking just like up in arms about our Swerker friends.
I told you, death in praxis, it's a thing.
We stand. We love our Swerker friends.
Yeah.
All y'all out there. And that's all types, by the way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Whether you're writing, taking photos, making the photos, whatever.
On location, whatever you do.
Yeah, if you're the boom operator, I don't care.
Yeah.
Just hold it.
Listen, I have a lot of respect for boom operators because you have to hold an awkward heavy thing for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like, good God.
That's some beefy shoulders.
Yeah. Let's take questions. Let's do it.
So Q&A part right here. Everybody, you can ask any questions to either Salt or me or both about kind of anything that we've talked about, which has spanned quite a few different topics, which is wonderful. That's exactly how I like it. Kind of going all over the place. You can ask questions, whether it be related or not related. It could just be a personal question. Salt, what's your favorite color?
Purple is one of them. That's why the lights are purple today.
It's a good color.
Blue, purple, red. Those are my 3. It's really funny because as a pansexual, I love all the colors in the bisexual flag, which is why the Bi-Pan Alliance is real.
Agreed with that.
Yeah, no.
Thank you for contributing, Cyber.
You know, that's awesome.
Oh, by the way, also, like, while I'm thanking people, yeah, thank you everybody for being here and being a part of this. I really, really, really appreciate it. You know, and this is my only. Here's my own little self promotion here. I got this show recently got like nominated for like a best podcast award, which I was like, I didn't submit it. What the fuck? You know, like,
These award shows are awesome because they're all fan nominated, right?
yeah, exactly. And so like, whoever was out there who nominated me, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. If it was multiple people, thank you all. You know, and I really appreciate it. You can go over to my Twitter. This is my own self promotion here. Get ready to ban me. You can go over to my Twitter. There's a post there that has it. You have to do it on a desktop site right now to vote, but it is very honoring. What's the word? I feel very honored.
Mm-hmm.
And thank
You should. I mean,
Salt.
well deserved.
Oh, thank you. But and thank you, Salt, for coming on and like talking about, you know, all sorts of different things.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And getting and we're listening to your music the whole time, and that's pretty cool.
I hope people have been enjoying it. Thank you.
I do keep it fairly quiet, but yeah,
That's valid. No, that's fine. Some of it's noisy as fuck, so that's valid. There is actually, so it wasn't a question, but it was something I did see while we were chatting. That I wanted to come back around to, and I don't know. I don't know if Semi Pro is still here, but Semi Pro said something that I thought was very interesting, and I think is valid and an important part of the discussion about neurodivergence and identifying as neurodivergent.
I did see that. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it was. I think it was, I'm scrolling up here. Someone who's neurodivergent. I'm just gonna say it's kind of weird for to me to make it the cornerstone of your personality, though that's likely to do with the fact that mine is one that I want to overcome rather than deal with. And so, yeah, I 100% get where that comes from, right? Like, to use a dumb metaphor, but a pretty solid, I think a solid metaphor. There was like a parody comic about the X-Men where I think it was like Storm was like, you shouldn't be ashamed of your mutant powers. They're a gift. And it's like, it's easy to say for you. You summon lightning from your hands and can make tornadoes. I've got like chainsaws for hands.
Right.
One of these is a lot harder to deal with day to day than the other. You know, like we're both mutants, quote unquote, but what you deal with and what I deal with isn't the same. And I think that that's a very important part of the discussion to be had.
Yeah.
Is like not everybody's neurodivergence, to use the word, is the same, and not everybody wants to just be like, I'm good, I'm happy with who I'm happy with it, I'm happy with what I'm dealing with, living with, and it's fine. For me, like for me as somebody who probably has ADHD, I don't want to get rid of it. I just want to be aware of it and maybe get better tools to manage it. But like that is very different than somebody else who might have something that's a little bit more day-to-day life debilitating. And if there was a way to not have to deal with that struggle every single day of your life, I can understand not wanting to do that.
I do think there's like something to be said for like the word like overcoming it, in the sense that we learn to deal with it better. Like we get better at it. Like that's something that I tell kids a lot of the time when I'm working with them. It's like it's not going to necessarily just go away, or you're going to be cured of it.
No,
you're just going to get better at it. You're going to get better at dealing with it.
Exactly.
You're going to realize, you know, if you've got generalized anxiety and that anxiety comes from social situations, you're going to realize maybe I just don't go to so many social situations. Or if I do go to social situations, I know when I can step out and when I can, you know, take a breather or whatever. Like we just get better at it.
Or even just being able to like communicate needs. Like if you know where things, like if you know the source of why things like are bothering you, or like what's kind of hitting your limit, it's a lot easier for you to communicate boundaries if you know what those boundaries are.
Right. 100%. Yeah. Because like Cyber said that we're all humans but our brains don't run the same is totally true, because two people who have depression or two people who have anxiety, they're not going to have the exact same thing. They might have some similar symptoms here and there, sure, you know, for both
Absolutely.
you know, maybe for both of them it's hard to get out of bed in the morning, no doubt. And that doesn't come from just sleepiness. That comes from, you know, literal, like, your body's like, we're not doing this, you know?
Yeah.
But like, they handle their depression differently. You know, they use, I use, you know, music and sunshine to get up. And it's like, awesome, that's great. Another person's like, I take bupropion or fluoxetine, you know? And
Yeah.
it's like,
and it's like,
yeah.
oh, fuck yeah.
Because I am a big proprietor of, if your brain doesn't make the right chemicals, store-bought chemicals are just fine.
Are just fine. Exactly.
They're gonna work. They're gonna do their thing. Cymbalta, exactly, right?
Cymbalta, yeah, exactly. And so
the medicine cat on TikTok, I did a TikTok where it's like this cat that just has like fluoxetine and all these, like, Lexapro and all these things like pop up over his head. And it's like, which one are you on? And it gave me fluoxetine, and that's just an antidepressant, and I'm not on that antidepressant.
Yep.
And I was like, you fucker.
Son of a bitch.
How did you know?
I think
Bupropion.
yeah, and so like coming back to the whole thing at the end of the day is like, if identifying as neurodivergent doesn't serve you, don't, right? Like, then don't do it, right? Where I find for a lot of folks who are identifying that way, part of it as well is that they're leveraging their existence as a sort of walking billboard and reminder that people who don't have neurotypical brains exist, and there's more of them than you think.
Yes.
It's the normalizing of the existence of. And I think ultimately the argument is like, is there a neurodivergent brain and a neurotypical brain? No, I don't actually think there's a neurotypical brain either. I think that there's a lot of standard mental things that a lot of folks have in common, but like saying like the like there's an implication to me of neurotypical that like, if there was one way for a brain to be, we would all like things the exact same way. We would all react to things the exact same way. Like, we'd be very singular minded if there was only one way for a brain to be.
Right. I do think, yeah, and the word neurotypical just means, you know, the most common. And so like, society has been built around the neurotypical process. You know, so not and I think for the most part, like, there are different shapes and different pieces that are like changed for neurodivergent people. But there's not like one like standard brain shape, you know, like that's
exactly
not really a thing, because everyone's going to be shaped a little differently. Everyone's going to hold a different amount of electricity and water up in there. And yes, by the way, your brain is powered with electricity. Isn't that fun?
It's basically fatty bacon in water that runs on the smallest amount of electricity and somehow invented calculus.
I got D in calculus.
Oh man.
Pre-calc, I got like a B-, and then they were like, you're gonna go to calc, and I was like, all right, sounds good. And I'm like, this is so fucking hard.
This is bullshit. So like, I used to be the type of kid that I was insufferable in high school. I took advanced functions and intro to calculus as an elective because I just liked numbers and patterns.
Sure.
And that was
it's
actually
like Tool song.
It's like exactly though. Like, I'm like, fuck, it was the worst. God. Like, you ever just like reflect back on who you were at 17 years old and just wish you could like hang yourself upside down and shake you?
17 less so, like 14. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, like I didn't get better till I got to university, and even then it took some time. But like, I just remember being in advanced functions intro to calculus and getting about halfway through the semester and getting to like the more calculus part of calculus, and it just got to a point where my brain went, nope, this sucks now. I'm no longer having fun. Like, this was great. I was having a grand old time with like patterns and recognizing shit, and then it got into like I think at one point we were like something about like negative infinity or something, and I got mad at the concept of negative infinity, and just from that point on I'm like, this class is bullshit and I hate it and I'm done.
Nope. It's all fake. Nothing's real.
Nothing is real. It's all fake. Numbers were made up by big number to sell you more numbers.
That's exactly what it is. Exactly what it. Listen up, sheeple.
Oh fuck.
We for those in chat who just either got here or whatever, we are in the Q&A section, so feel free to ask Salt or me a question, related or unrelated to literally anything that we've talked about. What's on the horizon for some of your content here?
So yeah, December is actually going to be a pretty interesting month. So I got a few cool things coming up this month. First, one of them, my 2-year anniversary is coming up. I don't know what I'm doing for it yet. Salt, what are your music inspirations? I'll get to that question in just a sec. That's a great question. Thank you. So my 2 years coming up, I don't actually know what I'm doing for it yet. I might actually slap one of the other events that I have coming up on top of my 2-year and put it all together. So 2 years coming up, there's going to be something happening for that. On December 10th, I'm participating in a weekend-long raid train for National Children's Alliance. December is Say It Louder, where they raise money all month long. And my good friend DZPG1, who I mentioned earlier, is hosting a raid train for charity. I'm going to be a part of it Saturday afternoon from I think 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. During that, for charity, I will be playing Alistair's Magic Box, which is Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic and Knuckles. It loads up all 4 games, and every time you collect a ring, it randomly transports you to another one. You don't control which game you go to, and you're playing all 4 games simultaneously.
That sounds like a ton of fun.
It's wild. I've done it before. I've beaten it. It took me 8 hours to beat all of them.
God gamer over here.
That's very kind of you. But because I've done it before, I think I can do it in 4 hours. So my slot is 2.5. I'm going to be streaming for 4 hours. Every game I don't beat in 4 hours, I will be donating to charity, and every donation that you give puts challenges on me to make it harder. Whether it's flip my controller upside down, make it so I have to take rings, make it so I force myself to jump and die. If you donate a particularly large amount, you can make me restart all 4 games from the beginning. Sure. But and we're raising money for National Children's Alliance, which does a lot of advocacy for kids. It's amazing. It's an amazing group.
That is wonderful. That's wonderful. That's how you and I met. Was the Raiders
for Human Rights. Raiders for Human Rights. What a time that was.
Great memories. Almost dying on camera, actually. It was a great time.
Yeah, incredible. It was such a beautiful time. It was such a beautiful week. I will remember that for the rest of my life. And I do hope at some point, when everybody is feeling up to it, we rev that train up again, because I think we really had something beautiful there.
Yes, and with all the people like helping and stuff like that, it went so like.
I was the Twitter guy.
Yeah, you were the Twitter guy, and you did a ton of stuff like that, helping other people out. You know. I just ate marshmallows and almost died, dude. Like,
you almost died though, man. Like, fuck.
For human rights.
Exactly. We got to do it.
It's my right to Chubby Bunny.
You have to Chubby Bunny. The one other thing that's happening this month, last month we had what I called the pre-order streamathon, which was my community could basically buy a streamathon in advance. So rather than deciding how long the streamathon was going to be while it was happening, I decided it was much safer that no, as long as you keep hitting goals throughout, you gave them an entire month, as long as you kept hitting goals, you would add hours to the streamathon. They racked it up. They racked it up to a 20-hour streamathon. So nice. I owe everybody a 20-hour stream.
I just did that myself.
Yeah, so you know what I'm in for. I've done a 24-hour before. I've done a 17-hour before, so it's gonna be 20 hours. And I'm probably gonna coincide that with my 2-year anniversary, most likely. So we'll do that all at once. It'll be a good time. I'll probably make some music at some point. I'll play some games. We'll do some community stuff. You can really kind of vibe with everybody and see what it's all like over on the Salt stream. And it'll be a great time. So that's all coming in later on this month. Great.
Please ban him for self-promo. And what are your music inspirations?
Yeah, ban me, please. My music inspirations. My music inspirations are very are varied, and almost none of them are electronic, despite it making electronic music. One of the most important bands for me growing up was System of a Down. I was huge into them. They were my political awakening. My older brother listened to very early System when I was a kid, and I didn't know what I was listening to. And then later on in life, I kind of rediscovered them. I heard a song, like, why do I know this? And I remember it's because of my brother. And so back in the days of LimeWire, I just typed the band name in and downloaded everything I could. And every single one of them that wasn't actually secretly another song, that was actually a System song, I fell in love with. And I just remember having this moment where I listened to the Prison song, and just like he's rambling off like political statistics, and like I'm like 12, 13 years old, and I could like feel myself getting radicalized in real time as I was just like, that's real. And like I looked it up and I was like, oh, and I just got mad. I was just an angry teenager who was so mad at injustice that I didn't know existed until that moment. But their dynamic range, the way that they go from so soft to so loud and everything in between, and like a song can snap on a dime. And yes, Serge's solo stuff is great as well. Also, so is Scars on Broadway, which is Darren Malakian's side project.
I haven't listened to so much to the second Scars on Broadway one, but the first one, like I can jam that one.
The first one is a banger. The second one's actually pretty solid too. But yeah, the early Surge stuff as well. Elect the Dead was incredible. Like I think that they're great. I've kind of grown. I don't want to say I've grown out of them, but I have found myself like looking at a lot of their politics now and finding myself left of them somehow. But
you've expanded.
Exactly.
Expanded your worldview, and
exactly.
All right, so I'm gonna stop you before you go too far down that hole.
Yeah.
Favorite album, go.
Favorite System album?
Yes.
Oh.
And I'll count Hypnotize and Mesmerize as one.
Well, if you count it, okay, well, that cinches it, right? If you're gonna count them as one album, then that's the winner. What I was gonna say is like the easy answer is Toxicity. Toxicity is
my first one.
Yeah, it's most people's first, right? That album is Rick Rubin at his finest as a producer, going, no, you guys are better when it's quick, right? Like your album doesn't need to be 70 minutes long. It needs to be like 43 minutes. It needs to come in. It needs to just roar like a lion for 45 minutes. And then you come out the other side still catching your breath. Yeah. Like during Ardo, the second half of Aerials, you're like, oh. And then you hit repeat and do it again. Mesmerize and Hypnotize, I think, are
beautiful,
absolute mastercrafts, and also have made System of a Down one of the few artists in the world beside the Beatles to have two albums come out in the same year, debut at #1 on the charts.
True.
Fun System fact. Other musical inspirations, Nine Inch Nails and Trent Reznor is a big one. The fact that his first album was made on a fucking Casio keyboard in 1989 at 2:00 in the morning in the back rooms of a recording studio when he was a janitor is
it's just nuts.
Absolutely nuts.
Just nuts, because
full disclosure, that was the reason why when during the pandemic Ableton gave me a free trial, I went out and bought a $100 MIDI keyboard, and every song I've ever written has been written on this and only this. I've used nothing else for any of the music I've written with Sonderlust, because you get a good MIDI keyboard, you take a lot of effort, and you take a lot of time, and you learn and you make mistakes. Sonderlust very much has been a project about failing upwards for the world to see. I listened to the first album that I wrote, which I called Coping Mechanisms, because it was a coping mechanism for me in COVID to write that album. When I listen to that now, and there are songs on that album that I'm not going to call them cringeworthy because I still love them, but I listen to them, I'm like, I feel like I could have done this better now that I know what I'm doing, because I wrote that album. I have no formal musical training. I taught myself drums when I was 14. I don't know how to play a keyboard. I don't know how to play any melodic instruments. I'm completely self-taught. I just know what sounds good in my head, and I plunk at it until I get it out. And each album has just been me learning and growing, and my belief was, I'll put it out there, and if people want to hear it, then they'll hear it. And so Trent Reznor was a huge influence on me on that perspective.
100%.
Prog bands like Tool, but also like Between the Buried and Me, the Mars Volta, to a lesser extent Dream Theater, but I do have to give credit where credit is due there. Going further back to like Pink Floyd and Yes, all of these bands, they really kind of expanded my musical vocabulary in terms of like what was okay musically, and when sometimes things that aren't okay are actually okay. You can make things sound dirty or grimy or nasty or off kilter, or you can put a song in like 7/8 time on purpose with intention. I have a song that's in fucking 26/16 time for no reason. It just is. It's just because I wanted to see if I could.
Yeah. I don't know why you're hating on waltz time, but you know.
Yeah, you know, 26/16, is that a waltz?
No.
Oh, you want me to make 6/4?
I want a waltz. Yeah, I want a Sonderlust waltz.
All right, you got it. All right, I'll do it for you. I've been doing a lot of stuff in like 6/8 because I've been getting that sea shanty vibe for a little while, but I can do a 3/4. I can do a 3/4. And beyond that,
take it back to the ballroom.
Absolutely. Beyond that, the rest of my musical inspirations are, I think, like Run the Jewels. I love Run the Jewels production.
Oh, I love Run the Jewels.
I love really noisy electronic music. I love like goes into genres. I love grindcore because it's just noise.
Sure, yeah.
There are some other artists recently that have been kind of inspiring me. Benny Makes Games, who's in chat, is a genius. We're actually working on an album together. He's an absolute musical genius, and introduced me to Jane Destroyer, I think is her name now. She had a different name, or Jane Remover.
Okay.
And last year, Jane Remover had an album come out called Frailty, which is like hyper pop meets like emo.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the most incredible, like from a production perspective, one of the most incredible things I've ever heard. And the Jane Remover was like 17, 18 when they wrote it. Like it's ridiculous. And so the inspiration from young artists who don't give a fuck I'm looking a lot to what the kids are doing, because I think it's really beautiful that there are kids and teenagers now that like DAWs like Ableton and Fruity Loops are more accessible. We're getting these kids getting their hands on them early and having such beautiful disrespect for the rules of music, the preconceived rules of music. And so I feel like we can learn a lot from the younger kids who are just fucking shit up. And so like Jane Remover's been a huge influence as well. So that's just to name a million, but it comes from everywhere. And there's no reason why your electronic music can't sound like metal music, and there's no reason why your metal music can't have synths in it. The rules are stupid. Break them. Make what makes your heart happy, and that's what I do.
Oh, I was gonna say that exact same thing. So like, the people in my community know this, but I've been kind of quietly working on like kind of a slightly acoustic piano-ish project with a friend of mine, because we want to take those really loud, heavy songs and make them pretty.
That's awesome. I like that.
You know, I'm adding piano parts. I'm doing that kind of stuff, and it's been a fucking blast. But for those who don't know, music production takes fucking forever.
It certainly can.
You can definitely take time to you can pump out stuff if you wanted to. There's like loop apps you can get and pump out something in a few minutes if you really wanted to.
If everybody wants to feel like a genius producer for $10, there's an app you can get. It's available on all phones now. It's called Flip Sampler. It's by Andrew Huang. For $10, it is extremely versatile, and you can just make beats, and they sound incredible.
Yeah. it takes a while because we're also kind of a little bit of a perfectionists. You know, we want to like. I'm like, nope. I'm redoing it. You know, like,
so a big part of Sonderlust for me is because I come from that background where I would be in bands and we would just be like, no, it's not good enough. No, it's not good enough. No, it's not good enough. No, it's not good enough.
right.
And a big part of this project for me was it's finished when it's finished, and I don't let myself sit on it.
Oh,
so
yeah,
like
don't overproduce.
Yeah. And one of the coolest things, which I've now done 3 times, I had it as a concept way back in the early days of streaming, going back to like things that kind of defined my content. I had this idea of a 12-hour album challenge, which I was inspired by actually Andrew Huang and Rob Scallion, 2 amazing content creators who did an album in a day. The 2 of them get into a studio. They went in on the 1st of October. They wrote an album's worth of music in a day, and then they released it. And the band is called 1st of October. And now they do it every year. So I was inspired by them. I'm like, okay, I'm going to see what I can come up with in 12 hours. Also, Jonathan Colton did Thing a Week, where he would write a song every week and release it. And it was another inspiration. So I did a 12-hour album. I'm like, we're gonna record live. Whatever we come up with in 12 hours, I'm gonna release that same day for free on my Bandcamp. And I was expecting to get like an EP, and I ended up with 7 songs in 12 hours, which I was blown away. Colton's IKEA song is fucking amazing. I sing it every time I go to IKEA. It was so incredible, and that really shook off all of my fear of just do it. I'm just fucking do it. And so now I've done that challenge 3 times. So 3 of the albums that I've released, I wrote them all in 12 hours. I started making music with Sonderlust in 2020, in May of 2020, and now coming into the 1st of December as we speak, I have released 86 songs as Sonderlust.
That's lovely.
It's been a wild ride, and a big part of it is just shaking that part of your head that doubts and being like, I will always be my worst critic. Nobody on the internet can say a worse thing about my music than I can say about my own music. So fuck it. So fuck it. I'm just going to put it out there.
About anything I've ever made.
Exactly. Nobody can be worse about the things that I've made than me. So I'm going to put it out there, because at worst, people will say things that suck. And at best, people will really like it. And for the most part, people have kind of liked it, which I've been really happy about.
And I think that's wonderful. You know, you get that, especially like when you like, my favorite part of making music sometimes is that flow state, like just like that, like when you're like, oh my god, this feels awesome. This feels because what we're doing is we're taking I don't want to give it away, but we're taking like something really heavy and basically making a new arrangement for it, and like getting that new flow thing into it. And Woodblock is a piece of one of them, Cyber. So
honestly, no, like Cyber, I don't know if you're being silly or not, but I agree. Woodblock is it's actually a very beautiful sound, and I would like that in more percussion. That is true. Mikey did bring up a point. It's currently turned off because I have too big of a backlog, but you can actually save channel points in my channel and redeem them for me to write a song for you. And basically, like, you give me a vibe or a tone, and I will do a Sonderlust take on that vibe and tone. And so we've got 2 EPs out that are just called Grains of Salt 1 and Grains of Salt 2, because my channel points are grains of salt.
Yep.
Yeah, we've written songs. I've got like another 8 I need to do. God, it never ends. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's really challenging because people give you ideas and themes that you wouldn't think of yourself, and it really forces you to write in a different way.
Yeah, that's what my I love that flow state. It's absolutely one of my favorite things, of just like, no. Shut up.
We're here.
Oh,
No.
Shut up. Hold on. I got this. And you're just like, and it's just like coming out of you, and you're just
Yep.
like, I don't care. Hit record. We'll figure it out. We can clean it up later. It's just happening right now. You know, because I got fucking gorilla hands, man, and I'm not the greatest piano player in the world. So like, every so often, you know,
you're gonna crack it out.
Yeah, every so often, you know, like I'll hit the wrong, you know, to be like, oh, I meant to hit the G and I hit the fucking, fuck, you know, but like whatever. Yeah. And that's like a normal thing. And I just feel so good. And there's something about it, especially when and when you're making it yourself, you know, there's, like you said, you're gonna be your own biggest critic.
Yeah. And
you put it out there, and like you get like your numbers back or whatever, and then you're just like, man, I fucking suck, I'm terrible at everything. And it's like, no.
It's such a slow process.
Super slow process.
But it's like fuck, it's the most satisfying thing for me. And for me, it's really become, I write songs for myself first.
Yeah.
And I always write my music for myself first. And if other people like it, that's wonderful. And for some reason people do, and that makes me really happy. But at the end of the day, even if not another soul in the world listen to it, I have a collection of songs that I can listen back to and be proud of. And that's the most important thing. And I think this is the same for any person, whether if you're an artist and you're drawing something, if you are a writer and you're working on your next set of poetry, your next book, your next screenplay, you know, it is much better for it to exist and suck. Dave Grohl actually, I think he said it in an interview where he's talking about like, somebody was asking like, how did Nirvana blow up? And he's like, we were a bunch of dudes in our garage and we played and we sucked, and then we kept playing and we sucked, and we went to shows and we were live and we sucked, and then one day, because we sucked so hard for so long, we stopped sucking and people liked it. And that's a legit thing, being a part of it, practicing, getting better. Like, what? Shit. I'm so sorry. I totally like, because what you're saying is so inspirational. It's a Game Grumps thing. Oh, no one came out the pussy drawing Mozart. Oh, exactly, right? No, for real though. It's like, no, nobody does. Even prodigies, and like, even so, if I can impart one thing to everybody out there, if you see somebody who makes beautiful art, whatever it is, whether it's paintings, whether it's music, whether it's whatever, one of the things that you say to people that you think is a compliment, but oftentimes is actually unintentionally like a knife in the back, is, oh, you've got such natural talent. No, they don't. They busted their ass.
A lot of the times, yes.
99% of the time, they busted their ass. They've spent years stressing over this, beating themselves up about it, being very in their own head about it. Recognize the beauty, please do. When if you love a piece of art that somebody's made, you want to make any artist happy, just tell them you really like it, or it makes you happy, or it makes you feel good, or if it's like a dark piece, it evokes these feelings in you, you know, tell them how it makes you feel, tell them how it moves you. That I couldn't you couldn't bottle that and sell that for enough money in the world. But you know, talent is years and years and years and hours and hours and hours of struggling.
There is some people do have a natural inclination to do something a little bit better.
Sure.
That comes with some natural talent, but that's more along the lines of you are more inclined to do a thing, you know, versus, you know, just like, because you can't just like sit a 5-year-old in front of a piano who's never seen one and then like, they got natural talent, you know?
Yeah, exactly. They had to get it from somewhere, whether they just were absorbed in it from a young age, whether they had an affinity to pick it up quickly, sure. But
that's the word I was looking for. Thank you, affinity.
There you go. But it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from somewhere. Yeah. Thank you for chatting music with me too. I freaking fuck
Absolutely.
music.
What was there? There was one other thing that you said in your tweet, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It was like alt metal albums of the early 2000s.
Oh God, yeah. Like come for hair care tips and best alt metal albums from the 2000s. We actually covered one of those. I did get into System, so there you go. What's yours? Hang on, I gotta actually know now. Who's your big like early 2000s metal band?
Linkin Park.
Oh fuck yeah, absolutely bangers. Legends forever.
Linkin Park 100% because they were one of my big transition bands from hip hop into kind of that more rock and metal scene.
Yep, they were a gateway drug for me too.
And it's Linkin Park 100%. I love all their stuff. I know that's a controversial opinion because later stuff is boring or it's so different. It's like it is.
I honestly think I like a lot of it didn't land for me right away, but going back when I started going back through their catalog, I'm like, this shit fucking bangs. It's so good. What is it? Is it? Oh, now I can't remember the name of the fucking song. I'm gonna go look it up real quick because there's a much later Linkin Park song that I could not believe happened. Rebellion, and the reason why I couldn't believe it happened was because fucking Darren from System's on it.
Darren's on it, yeah.
and like I just remember seeing that because it was at the point where I was like, I'm not really into where Linkin Park went, and then later on, like Linkin Park released this new song with Darren Malakian, and I was kind of like, huh? And then heard it.
No singing.
Yeah. Just him shredding on the guitar.
Yep.
But it's such an icon. Like Darren has such a distinct sound in his guitar playing that you know right away.
No doubt.
But yeah, no. 1,000 Suns is a great album.
1,000 Suns is a great album. I listened to it actually pretty like. I will say, and this is and I know that not everybody agrees with this one because technically it's a remix album, but I think Reanimation's fucking incredible.
Reanimation's genius.
Incredible.
So my violent Linkin Park salt take is that Reanimation is way better than Collision Course. A lot of people love Collision Course, and I think it's a great album.
Fine, but it's a mashup.
I think it's okay. I think Reanimation is like some of the Reanimation versions of Linkin Park songs are better than the originals.
Yes.
Reanimation with You.
Literally was on a playlist I was listening to today.
Like that opening, like oh.
When Chester passed away, like I was at work and my partner texted me and told me, and at the time I was running a therapy group.
Yeah.
I was running a therapy group and we were on break, and I was like, I have to finish this group and like go sit in my car for like 45 minutes just to like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I grew up, my older brother and sister are 8 and 9 years older than me. Sorry.
Oh.
So I was born in 1990. My older brother and sister were born in 82 and 81. So I grew up in grunge. Like I was the grunge, like Nirvana was pouring out of every wall, right? And so a lot of my music tastes skew a few years older than me because I have nostalgia for my siblings' music.
No doubt. I get nostalgia for my mom's music, which is 80s shit.
Absolutely.
And I'm all about
absolutely,
it.
Right? And as you should, right? As you should. You should always be nostalgic for the music you grew up with in your family.
Yeah.
But so for me, like grunge was a big thing, and I really came into on my own later on Soundgarden. And it was a band that I didn't really listen to as a kid, but I came into it as like a late teen, early 20s adult, and I really liked Soundgarden. And so like Soundgarden and Linkin Park, and then the two of them back to back, like within a year of each other.
Yeah.
And they were friends, and just like it was very clear that the two of them were like pillars for each other.
Oh yeah,
because they knew what they were going through, and they were kind of going through a lot of the same things, and just to like, if you will, like see the dominoes fall back to back like that was just that was a really hard time for me musically. But like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Fucking.
No, incredible music. Obviously, Linkin Park was my big one. System was great. I have great memories attached to Toxicity specifically.
Absolutely.
Toxicity I used to listen to while I played Jedi Academy.
Oh, that's a combo. Love that.
And I used to just play that on my stereo, and it would just like, I just had it on repeat, and I would just like play. And it was funny because then recently I played Jedi Academy on the channel, and like that's all that was going through my head the whole time.
Yeah, no, for real. And Harlequin just mentioned Audio Slave. Also, Kat, I love that your hubby loves them. Soundgarden, I can understand them being a bit of an acquired sound because they were very, very, very interesting combination.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting combination of sounds in terms of like griminess and then his like soaring high vocals. Audio Slave is a band that should not have worked and works so fucking well.
Works so well.
I love Rage Against the Machine as well. I actually got to see them this year. They did their big reunion tour, and they had Run the Jewels as the opener, like the most obscene lineup.
Yeah.
Like it was just like 4 hours of unbelievably powerful music. But like Audio Slave, I feel like there are, I think the best Audio Slave songs aren't the ones on radio, with the exception of maybe Cochise. But I feel like
okay.
almost all of my favorite Audio Slave songs were never radio hits.
Most of the time, I feel like that's fairly true with a lot of bands. If you really get into a band, you find other songs that are like, it wasn't a single, or maybe it was a single, but it wasn't like their big single. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like the one single of theirs that I think was amazing is Original Fire. The fucking laughing monkey guitar solo on Original Fire by Audio Slave is just chef's kiss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kat, you would get along very well with the partner of mine that I live with, who is also a huge Evanescence and Within Temptation fan.
I think we talked about this at once on one stream, but I said sometimes I'll throw on Fallen by Evanescence just to feel.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's a cover to cover album for me. Like,
oh, absolutely. You don't. I'm a big proponent in listening to albums cover to cover.
Same. We're the same
even
person?
if they're. I think we're still. Do we just become best friends?
Are we the same fucking person?
We're
karaoke
both...
too. What the fuck's going on here?
Oh yeah, we didn't talk karaoke, dude. Oh man, that is a whole fucking thing. But because I'm a big believer that like even if the album isn't a concept album, I love concept albums. But even if the album isn't a concept album, they chose that order and that lineup on purpose. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like there was a rhyme or reason to it. Actually, one of the albums, actually, I think probably one that you played, Escaping Sepia, that album is designed to flow into itself. And even though it's mostly instrumental, it's meant to tell a bit of a story, an emotional story. But like I designed it and really thought about the order of the songs on that album because it was important to me to like send you on an emotional journey, even if there's no lyrics.
See, I love that shit, man, because what my buddy and I do, so like, remember when you were a kid and you used to like give each other mix CDs or mixtapes and stuff like that? Well, like that's hella outdated at this point. But now we'll do playlists. We'll make like an album-long playlist and send it to each other. And I'm always like super intentional with the way I like put these on here. You know,
that's
I'm like,
awesome.
This starts out like really big and like it kind of dips down into the bowl of like sadness for a minute, comes out strong, but you know, whatever I decide to do on that one.
That's really cool. I really appreciate that.
And it's great. And I love doing it. I love it.
No, it's so good. Nightwish is also amazing. I actually got to see Nightwish years ago. I went to a show. It was Nightwish in Camelot. It was a very interesting show, but it was a great time.
That sounds like European metal to me, man.
Oh yeah, it was a great show.
Do you remember when Within Temptation did a song with Exhibit?
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes, I do. Why does this work? What is happening here? That was wild.
I was like, this fucking rules, dude. Yeah.
Unreal. So as two former karaoke hosts for a second.
Yes. Well, this will be our last little thing here.
Sure, sounds good to me.
And then I'll have you suggest a raid target for us.
Ooh,
I have people we can raid, but if you have one that you'd like to raid instead, do that.
I will definitely take a look in a minute.
Yeah.
But so I want to tell you about this. So like I was a KJ for a while. I actually worked for another guy who had the equipment, but he needed hosts, and I was very good at hosting because I didn't have the money for the equipment at the time.
That was the same exact way.
Yeah. But I came to know the karaoke circuit. And I was also like a big part of it. Like I used to go out to karaoke nights all the time when I wasn't a host.
Right.
But because it's the karaoke culture. If your city has a good karaoke culture, you meet some of the most eccentric and weird and awesome people on the fucking planet. The type of person who will go to a karaoke bar every week. They're either like some of the weirdest people or some of the coolest people. And kind of know
I've always found like karaoke is a place for people to have fun, no matter what they're doing. If they're showing off and they're having fun doing it, then great. If they're a really good stage presence but their tone is terrible, awesome, amazing.
As long as you're having fun. Absolutely. Being good, like anybody who's like, oh, I want to go to karaoke but I can't sing. If you can't sing but you fucking love the song and you're having a blast up there, you're gonna be the favorite person of the whole night. Like you're gonna be the one everybody loves.
Or fucking pick a song that everybody knows and then no one will pay attention to you anyway,
because they're singing anyway, because they're singing with you.
They're singing their own song.
So my time as a karaoke host, actually, I had a really interesting moment. I don't know, are you at all familiar with the band The Birthday Massacre?
Yes.
So the Birthday Massacre are from my area. Some of them are from Toronto, some of them are from like other areas in Southwestern Ontario. I ended up becoming friends with, and like good friends with, Chibi, the front woman of the Birthday Massacre, because she was a regular at my karaoke bar.
That's awesome.
And it was one of those things where I didn't recognize her at first because she's not in stage clothes or any of that kind of thing. Had a great voice. Didn't sing anything you'd expect like from somebody who sings Birthday Massacre. Like she'd go up and sing like fucking Pearl Jam or like do a really jokey Metallica and stuff like that. And the only reason why I realized it was because like the one day she was wearing short sleeves and I saw the tattoo on her arm and I recognized the tattoo, and that was when I went, oh fuck, holy shit. And kind of had like a oh my god moment, and tried to not be shitty about it. And then we became friends, I think mostly because I wasn't shitty about it and just kind of like let her do her thing. And so that was a really cool experience, and the kind of thing that you can only
we're the same fucking person. So
yeah, right. Now, the last thing I will say is there's one karaoke host in Toronto who is my favorite person, because he has the best rule I have ever heard of at karaoke of all time, and he enforces it. And his karaoke rule is, if you want to sing Bohemian Rhapsody or Don't Stop Believing, you have to pay $10.
Sure, yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that rule before.
And I think it's important. What he uses it, he said, like, I use it to license more songs for the catalog, and I give half of it to the wait staff. So he splits it. He takes $5 and he tips the staff $5 to be like, I'm sorry, you have to hear this song again. Yeah, and like people will do it. People will pay the $10, right? Like they're like, no, I want to sing Don't Stop Believin'. I'll pay the $10, especially if it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you've had a couple of your favorite drink, right? Fuck it, $10, who cares? But it's great. Everybody gets to have a bit of a laugh out of it. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, I my big rule that I had was you only get the song once a night. So if you want Bohemian Rhapsody, but you're like, yeah, I'll wait an hour or two, you might not get it.
Yeah, somebody else will do it.
Somebody else is gonna do it before you. If you want to get it in now. And I'm not gonna stop you. I'm all for it,
Oh, absolutely. Like I would never stop anybody. Like there's certain songs that people would play every fucking week, but I'm never gonna stop you. Do your thing.
Oh yeah, no. Friends in Low Places was a big one for that.
Oh, really? That's fun.
I hate that song. I was always like, one person said like, can I get the one with the speech in it? And I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah, the version that is like 3 minutes longer, where he talks about taking the glass and shoving it up your ass.
Absolutely
like, no.
not. You are getting 100% the like 3.5 minute version.
You get the 3.5 minute with fade out, and you will like it.
So you're why I said they're the same person, right? Not the Birthday Massacre. Do you know Butcher Babies?
Yeah, I know Butcher Babies.
I'm friends with Heidi because she was a regular at my bar.
What is with these bands? And when they're not performing live, they're like, no, I still need to perform, but I need to perform live. Like, I need to perform bullshit where nobody knows me.
Yeah, she did. One of her go-tos was No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
Oh,
and
fuck yeah.
She would get her growl on for it a little bit, and I was like, oh god, you're so fucking good.
That's fucking awesome.
That was so funny because I was just like,
yeah, like
Birthday Massacre, like,
yeah, Chibi would do Whiskey in the Jar, the Metallica version, just so that she could be like, I'm a serene, like as aggressively as she could, and then would like sing the chorus as cleanly as possible and just throw people off.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh man. My one regular, this guy's name was Rick, and he was just like an old, like 65-year-old man, who was like a painter by trade, and he would just come in. He had a nice voice, and he would just come in and sing like Peter Gabriel songs or like random like deep cut songs from bands that had really great drummers because he was a drummer, and like it would be like the same things where by the end of the night, he would come up and I would be like, are we doing In Your Eyes again? He goes, yeah, we're going to do In Your Eyes. I'm like, all right, here we go. But it's a banger, so who cares? Like, I'll listen to that song.
What was your big crowd pleaser?
Ooh, so I had a couple and then others got added because people started making requests, which was really fun. Did you ever have people asking you to sing songs?
Oh my God, constantly. Yeah, because what happens like when you first start out, and running a spider and KJ's out there. When you first start out, you have like your couple that you kind of go to that you're gonna kick ass at, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
But you get a little bored of them.
You get so bored. You got to find other shit. So you start experimenting.
You get a little bored of them. So you start like being like, all right, well, what if I throw this one in there? Or maybe this one's not like maybe this one's not literally a crowd pleaser, but I like it, so I'm gonna go for it. And then you mix it in. What I like to do is what I started to do a lot of the time, not every time, but it was I did one for me and one for them.
Yeah.
And so absolutely. I would be like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna start out with Separate Ways by Journey, right? That's like a good like crowd pleaser. Everyone knows it.
Yeah, people are into it.
I can do the foot on the amp thing. It feels great, right?
Hell yeah.
And then, all right, what's next? We're gonna go with Heavy by Linkin Park.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my biggest crowd pleaser of all was Toxic by Britney Spears.
Oh yeah, people are gonna love that. That's fucking sick.
That one I got requested every night.
That's so good. So like my go-tos are No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age. That's a go-to of mine. I use 1979 by Smashing Pumpkins as a warm-up song a lot, because it starts off easy, and then by the time you really need to actually kick your vocals in, you've warmed up, which is good. I would do Even Flow by Pearl Jam for like a drive and rock song.
Sure.
And then I would do like some System stuff, and then I had just stuff for me, like I would do System songs and other random stuff. The guy Rick actually, who did In Your Eyes, he comes up and he's like, I know you do Pearl Jam, but there's like a specific Pearl Jam song I'd like you to try, and he asked me to do Black by Pearl Jam.
Oh,
and
great song.
Which is an incredible song. It is a mood killer though, right? Because like it's
a bit of a slow one, yeah.
I mean, by the end you're like screaming and bellowing, and it's all like emotional and shit. And I was like, okay, I'll do it for you once.
And then 2.5 minutes of
yeah, but like it was fine. Cause I'm like, I'll do fucking grunge runs. Like, like I'll do that. I don't care. I just hammed it up. But the point was, the whole fucking bar lost their shit. Like they were just like really happy with it, and so people kept asking me for it. And actually, this is actually kind of cool. I can show you this because it's relevant. When I quit the KJ job, I quit it because I got into radio and I was too busy to do the KJ job anymore.
Right.
So I had to quit it. And so remember I said that Rick was a painter. Now he painted like industrial painting, but he also artistically painted.
Mhm.
And on my last night, he gave me this. And I'm going to just quickly grab it because it's on my wall.
Yeah. Love some other really good ones. Like there's always like I said, one for me and one for them, right? So I do like In Between Days by The Cure, and then I'd be like, all right, I'll do Cherry Pie, you know, and then all right, let's go back to I don't know, we'll go back to something like Love My Way by the Psychedelic Furs, and then all right, fine, you want I Write Sins, you got it, you know. That was kind of my thing.
So he gave me this, and it's all black on black, right?
Yeah, I see.
And he gave it to me as a thank you for singing black for all those years for him.
Oh.
And it's hard to see here, but like if I shake it, you kind of see like there's layers to it.
Yeah, I can see the texture.
It comes right off the painting. What he actually did in the middle was he took his copy of that Pearl Jam record and he placed it in the middle.
Oh, he pressed it.
And then painted around it. And so he literally put the album onto the canvas when he was painting. And was just like,
what an adorable thing. I love that.
And he gave that to me as like a going away gift. And I was like, dude, what? Like I'm crying in the fucking club. Like, what the hell's happening here, man? Like, it's just a karaoke job I did for a couple bucks and a bunch of beers on the weekends. It was just a side gig. Why am I all in my feels? So, you know, sometimes the connections, you don't expect them, right? And,
no doubt. Yeah, no, people were like, after I moved, people were like still texting me like, when's the next time you're out? And I'm like, I don't live there anymore. You know?
Yeah, it's done. It's over. It's not happening anymore.
Yes, but that's amazing. So last little things to clean up here. Thank you again, Salt, for coming on here. Appreciate
Absolute
it very,
pleasure.
very, very much. If you're not by now, I don't know what you're thinking here, but definitely give Salt King a check out here. You know, check out their content. Great time, and it always says welcome in if you start typing in chat, which always feels kind of good. And also, I'm always curious. I'm like, what's gonna come up?
Yeah, you get a lot of fun stuff. I kind of want to add some more greetings. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Absolutely.
My next stream is on Friday. So Wednesday is normally my stream night. So we actually streamed for a little bit and then we raided in. It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But my next stream is on Friday. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday evenings, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. ish Eastern Standard Time. We also do bonus streams on the weekend, but those aren't guaranteed, so I don't include them in the schedule. The Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's guaranteed. The bonus streams are special, super fun times on the weekend, and they're usually during the day. Yeah. We'll be playing Fire Emblem 3 Houses on Friday, and we're playing Pokemon Scarlet. So it's a lot of Nintendo Switch times right now, but we do literally everything. And I have a game list. You can add to it and fuck with it. It's shenanigans. It's always good. I know. Big fucking nerd.
Thank you again, everybody. I really appreciate it. If you want to check me out, which is like, you know, it's my fucking stream. What are you gonna stop me? What are you gonna stop me? Check out my Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. It is. I always post on there. More TravTalks are coming. I got people scheduled. I got some names you might recognize. I got some names you might not recognize. They're all great. They're all great. I'm excited. And Salt, thank you for letting me use all your clout.
Oh, the like half a millimeter of clout, yo. It's been an
it can't be that much clout for the same fucking person.
This is making me laugh. Like I was joking when I saw the promo picture. I'm like, we're the same person, and then we talk all night, and I go, fuck, we're the same person.
Yeah. Oh fuck.
How did this happen?
We both know women from like alt rock, alt metal bands.
Jesus Christ, I love it.
Both KJs.
Hell yeah.
That shit's hilarious.
This was a blast, and I eventually, this is just a small thing. I eventually am going to be doing a radio show on Twitch where I basically going to showcase off really cool music. It's slow to get off the ground. When that gets done and ready, one of the things I eventually do want to do is have guest hosts on where they're showing off music that they really love. And considering I think since we're the same person, you've got some pretty good taste, we should talk because when I finally get that show off the ground, I'd love to have you on.
Please, yeah. We'll just play Bad Omens for an hour.
Perfect. Sounds great. Let's go.
I've been on such a kick.
You are now listening to 1 hour of Bad Omens. Let's go.
Get ready. All right, who's our raid target, friend? Do you know
So
somebody?
that's what
I've got
so
plenty of people too.
Oh, I've got plenty too. I'm just trying to see. There were a couple of people who normally stream on Wednesday night who aren't here, so I was hoping to give one of them some love. But who are you looking at? Because I feel like we have a lot of the same people.
We probably do have some of the same people. I mean, I've got some people that I would love to raid into. I've got some people who are like really close to that partner type push. I've got people who are
okay.
people that I just love in general.
All right. I was gonna say the one of all the people I'm seeing, the one person who I always love raiding into because it's always a fucking blast is Kanba. But if you've got
I recently just raided into Kanba.
If you just no, that's valid. Ooh, actually, oh no, they just went off. No, if you've got somebody, I'm good. The people that I were gonna suggest just started wrapping up their stream.
Okay then.
Let's do the partner push. I'm down with that.
Let me do a quick refresh in case somebody disappears.
God, I hate when that happens. I knew two people who like actually raided each other simultaneously and both landed in each other's empty chats.
Yeah, what do you do then?
Cry.
Just be upset about it, I guess.
Yeah, just like, well, that happened, I guess.
Well, that happened.
But yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you
yeah.
also to your community was so welcoming and kind and awesome. So thank you all for your questions and thank you all for just being rad people. You guys are the best.
It's facts. It's big facts. Some of y'all might recognize this name. They're not doing a partner push. I changed my mind. Oh shit! You see that? What the fuck?
I saved it for the end.
As good as I was like, I swear if he does this the whole fucking time.
No, I wasn't gonna do it to you the whole time. I could have been a jerk. I chose not to. I could have like made myself retro.
All right, love that. But I appreciate every single one of you for coming in. Thank you for supporting TravTalks. Check out Salt if you haven't. I swear to God, I swear to God. But you might recognize his name, some of y'all. It's AOK Gaming.
Oh shit, I didn't even see AOK was fucking streaming. If I'd known that, I would have said AOK. Oh my god, yeah. Easiest. Best choice.
AOK raids into me a ton of the time, so I gotta give the love back.
Hell yes. So
Hell
good.
yeah.
On top of your regular raid message, everybody just tell him that the Arkells are amazing. He'll be really happy to hear that.
Always. Yes, there it is right there. If you are subscribed, feel free to use it. Feel free to use your own raid emotes. I don't care. All you gotta do is let him know. That's Super Salt. Super Salt sent you.
I'm into that. Let's do it. I love it.
That's our ship name.
Make it happen. I don't support real person fan fiction, but I'll make an exception once if it's good.
This is pretty good.
Was it good for you? It was good for me.
Is it twin size? Anyway, don't look at me like that. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a good night. I'll be back tomorrow. Salt will be back on Friday. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you so much. Take care.